It's now time to follow the money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard.
$50, the Smales kid picks his nose.
Mitch Moss.
We've heard this from NFL coaches before. You can't lose your job due to injury. I call BS on that every single time.
Paulie Howard.
I don't like it when the other guy dictates the terms, and it's like, who are you?
Follow the money.
Go to the coast. We get together. Have a few laughs.
Right here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Sirius XM 204.
Thanks for checking in live from the Las Vegas Strip. You can follow us on Twitter at VSiNLive, at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard. For those of you watching the show on the website, on Periscope, Facebook Live, YouTube, the stream is now back up, vsin.com as well. You can watch the show there. And plenty of player props to get to in the National Football League. We have Week 1 finally here tomorrow night, Paulie. In this game here at the South Point, the Patriots currently 9-point favorites against the Chiefs.
That's steep. This is the home team, the champs, always win this game. The one exception when Dallas beat the Giants. Throw out what happened when Baltimore had to go on the road since they added this in 2004. But Tom got new toys. I think they're going to miss Edelman, but it's great that Hogan now has a locker right next to Brady after they traded Brissett, and they want Hogan to step in and replace Edelman, and Tom needs that trust with Hogan. You also add Dorsett. You have Gillislee. You still can throw to White. Gronkowski, it's still an embarrassment of riches, even though he loses his number one guy.
Paulie, what you're talking about is known as the Patriots way, as we've been told for many, many years.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of weapons.
I expect big things from Brandon Cooks this year. I'm a huge fan of that kid.
You do.
I think he's outstanding. And who knows? If Gronk can give that team, if he can play a full season, this is going to be awesome. Every Thursday on this show at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, we talk to Paul Charchian. Fanball.com. He's dynamite on fantasy and the NFL and so many other things in general. But he tweeted this out yesterday. He's on the record saying the Patriots are going to go 16-0 and they're going to set the all-time scoring record. His two, what do you want to call those? Outrageous predictions?
All right. Yeah.
Are they plausible?
He's out there. I thought it happened in 2007. I got it right.
Yeah.
See if it can happen again.
All right, here we go. Yeah.
Will a team go 14-2? Will a team go over 13.5 wins? Yes, even money. You think that'll happen?
I do. Yes. I would bet that, yes.
Will a team lose more than 13.5 games? Yes, minus 155.
God.
Someone will go, 2-14. Browns.
I'll lean
Jets,
yes. I'll lean
Jets, yes.
Yeah.
I would go yes, too, although you got to pay a pretty steep price.
Mm-hmm.
First coach fired. Bowles is too easy at 4-1.
Well, he has to be a huge favorite,
But I think he survives. Why would they bring him back? Plus, they're openly tanking, right? Caldwell and Pagano 6-1. Pagano.
Well, but here's the thing.
Pagano.
I've been on the Pagano firing train for years now. Hasn't happened.
Yeah, I would lead Pagano. Fox 12-1. Marvin Lewis 12-1.
See, I could agree with Fox. I could see that happening, although I would disagree with the move.
All right, Malarkey and Peterson 25-1.
Ooh, Malarkey is interesting.
You think so?
Yes, I do. What if they fall apart and they don't live up to expectations?
Maybe Peterson? Expectations for the Eagles? Brought in some weapons?
What, year 2?
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah.
NFL teams could whack a guy once in a while after 1 year. McAdoo 25-1. Zimmer 30-1. Hugh Jackson 30-1. He won't survive if they win 2 games, will he? That's a long process.
But he's 30-1.
Hugh Jackson's 30-1.
Rumblings existed in that area last year that he was going to get fired.
Right.
I would take Hugh 30-1. Yes.
Yeah.
For value.
First coach fired in the NFL. It's good stuff.
Uh-huh. All right, some player props to go over. We'll do a couple of divisions right now, and we'll do more on the AFC coming up tomorrow as we get ready for the Patriots and the Chiefs. Starting in the NFC East, I love this division this year. And offshore player props on the quarterbacks here first. Dak Prescott, total passing yards in 2017 is 3,750. His touchdowns are 25. Interceptions are 8. Rushing yards, 350, and rushing TDs, 3.5.
Can't bet it because of Elliott. Because I think they'll change the way they play.
I do too.
Elliott's suspended.
That's why I think I would take over 8 interceptions. I think teams will adjust to that too, and he's going to throw more than he would with Elliott not being on the field. Mm-hmm. I would take over 8, and I would take over 250 yards rushing because I think without Elliott in these games, I think he'll look to run more this year first than he did last year.
Concur. Agree on all counts.
Carson.
Everything over with Wentz.
41. Okay. 4,100
Yes.
yards, 20.5 touchdowns, 13 INTs.
I think they're going to throw it a lot. He gets Jeffrey. People don't understand. They do in Philly. Hello out there, people. We love you on the East Coast. The wide receivers were so bad last year.
Yep.
He had no trust. He didn't trust them. I didn't blame him. They couldn't catch the ball, which, yeah, big problem. But now you get Jeffrey, who bet on himself by signing a one-year deal.
Huge
Good wide
fan of that
receiver.
play.
Big wide receiver, and you have Smith to run go routes and be the deep threat. You still have other guys you can throw to as well. You got Ertz, you got Sproles, you pick Blunt up, good short yardage back. A lot of weapons now with Wentz.
I would actually stay away from the yards. I would lean under 4,100, but I'm with you on the touchdowns. Go over 20.5, and I think he throws more than 13 INTs.
All right.
For Eli Manning, 4,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, 15 INTs. I'm going to go over 4,300. The 29 I'm going to stay away from, and I'd go, 15 is pretty much the right number as well. So the only one I would bet there would be over 4,300 yards passing. 4,300 yards passing for a veteran quarterback today in the NFL is nothing. Cousins threw for 4,900 last
You're right.
year.
I would like to see them develop a running game, and I think
As
they
would
will.
I.
And I think they will.
For the Redskins, Kirk Cousins, look at this. His prop is 4,600 passing yards.
Yep.
The touchdowns, 26, and the INTs, 12. Give me the over on 12 INTs. I think they're going to throw the ball a ton again this year. He might be an overplay as well. Again, 4,900 plus last year if he stays healthy. We get to the wide receivers in the NFC East. Des Bryant, yards, 1,000. Touchdowns, 8. I'll take the over 1,000 yards. Again, keep in mind what's going to happen with Zeke.
Yeah, I think, you got to go over with. I'm with you.
Did I make a mistake? In my big fantasy league yesterday, I was offered Beckham straight up for Mike Evans. I turned it down. Then I was offered Beckham straight up for Julio Jones. I turned that down. Odell Beckham's prop bets offshore. 98.5 catches, 1,350 yards, 9.5 touchdowns.
He should be drug tested. He wants to be the highest paid player in the league. I mean, give me a break with that.
I'd go over catches because, again, 100 catches for an elite
Marshall's going to want the ball, too.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Shepard had a good year.
And
they got Ingram, the tight end.
This is going to sound a little, this will sound completely squarish on my part. How in this day and age in the NFL, how can you be afraid to bet overs on a lot of the elite receivers?
Yeah.
For a year. That's why, it's just they put up these huge numbers every single year. It's like clockwork. Brandon Marshall, here you go. 850 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns.
7 touchdowns is too high.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Here you go with Alshon Jeffrey.
Okay.
What is your reaction when I tell you his props this year? 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns.
1,100.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Right?
I'd lean over.
Boy, people love Terrell Pryor with the skins.
I don't get that. I don't get that at all.
Well,
how many guys ripped him last year when he was in Cleveland about he's not that good? Now you're asking him to be a number one?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it.
Of the countless mock drafts I've done in fantasy, he's going late second round in a lot of them.
Doesn't mean he's good.
Yeah. 1,100 yards, 6.5 touchdowns.
The Redskins are going to be awful. I think I'm with Matt. They're going to go under and be in last place, so they're probably going to be behind late. Garbage yards, garbage touchdowns. That's why Cousins put up big numbers.
Well, the numbers are there, yeah.
Yeah.
Crowder, his yards 1,000, receiving touchdowns 5, and you have Jordan Reed at 907 touchdowns.
Thanks.
Okay. The NFC North, Aaron Rodgers. We'll begin with him. Total passing yards this year, 4,300. His touchdowns are 35.5, and his INTs are 8.
Great rapport with Nelson. Gets another weapon with Bennett. I love the acquisition of Bennett. Big tight end to throw to. He turned Cook into an elite tight end last year in the big games he had in the playoffs. I don't want anything under with Aaron Rodgers, although strange that they got off to a slow start last year and struggled on offense.
If anything, I would go under the passing yards because he's not a guy that goes out there and he does not push 5,000 yards like a lot of the other quarterbacks do. But the touchdown passes are always there, and the INTs are always really low.
Yep. Stafford, I'd go everything over, and I think he stinks. But I think the Lions are going to be maybe lose 10, 11 games as well. Also, a lot of what he does will be in garbage time. Can't beat a good team. 4-43 in his career against teams that finished the season with a winning record. 1-21 on the road. They'll be in a lot of blowouts and garbage yards.
One of my favorite props on the board is Matthew Stafford, INTs over 11.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot.
Yep.
Sam Bradford, last quarterback, second to last year in the NFC North. Passing yards, 3,800. Touchdowns, 20. INTs, 9. Played well last year. Well,
Every such short pass, though.
Yeah.
Although he did have good numbers percentage-wise when he threw longer than 15 yards, but it goes back to scheme. And the offensive line was so bad, especially in preseason and last year, he doesn't have time to throw, so it's got to be out quick.
no,
Go.
he was healthy last year. Reynolds just said, and he's got a good point. I thought this was going to happen last year. Take the under and everything Bradford because he's going to get banged up this year.
He could, yeah. If that offensive line doesn't hold up,
Yeah.
right.
Mike Glennon, average passing yards per game. Over-under is 200. And how many total starts for Trubisky in the regular season? The total there is 2.5.
2.5 over minus 250.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're paying for it, but I like it over. They get off to a slow start. They cut bait. They got to put the kid in there.
All right, some running backs here in this division. Jordan Howard, total rushing yards 1,250. His total rushing and receiving touchdowns this season coming up 8.5. Ty Montgomery, 700 yards rushing. And this one I think is too low. The rushing and receiving touchdowns for Montgomery this year, 6.5. This guy, I don't think he's going to push 1,000 yards on the ground, but he can maybe come up with 750, 800 yards on the ground, plus 800 yards receiving and 60 catches. He can't get into the end zone 7 times? I think he can. The more I watch Minnesota, the more I'm freaking out about the offensive line and Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Total rushing yards, 850. Rushing and receiving yards, 7 for him as the rookie.
That'll be good for Paul Charchian tomorrow.
Yep. Amir Abdullah, rushing yards, 850. Rushing and receiving, 6.5 touchdowns. The receivers now in this division. Jordy Nelson, 1,200 yards, 10.5 touchdowns. Any thoughts there?
1,200?
Yeah.
Nah.
Cobb is 750 and 6 touchdowns. Is he that much of a threat anymore? I don't know. He wasn't that effective last year.
It's hard to have an opinion on some of these because what happened last year with Green Bay and then the fact that Rodgers and McCarthy can't stand each other.
How about Bennett?
Well, Rodgers doesn't like him.
You love the acquisition of Martellus Bennett.
Love it.
600 receiving yards, 5.5 touchdowns.
I like over yards.
All right.
Yep.
Golden Tate in Detroit. I will take these over. 1,000 yards. I think he's going to have a huge year. 5.5 touchdowns. Marvin Jones, 850. No opinion there. And 5.5 touchdowns. 2 other receivers. Well, Stephon Diggs, 950 yards, 4.5 touchdowns. And Adam Thielen, who really came on last year. I thought he was an underrated threat and a weapon for the Vikings. 900 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Could only look over based on how he ended the season. Had that monster game in Lambeau, and he had a nice rapport with Bradford late.
Yep. We are on Twitter here, at VSiNLive, at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard. Up next, so we've talked about quarterback values to the point spread a lot here in the offseason and what they're worth. For example, Aaron Rodgers is worth about 8 points to the number, according to Chris Andrews here at the South Point, and every other quarterback in the league is below him, and it ranges from 7 and below. But when you look ahead to the state of the quarterback in the National Football League, there was a great article on The Ringer pointing out how bad it could be. Are we looking at a future where quarterbacks might only be worth 3.5 points? We'll examine that coming up next.
Stay connected to Follow the Money on social media at VSiNLive and at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard, and at I Am Reynolds 2305. Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard is back. Just like we said we'd be.
Did we just become best friends?
Now buckle up for more top-notch sports betting talk right here on Sirius XM 204.
The NFL betting season is here, and VSiN has responded with more programming when you want it. We kick off every weekday here with Follow the Money, 7 to 10 Eastern, 4 to 7 Pacific time. Following us, it is Gil Alexander with a numbers game. He goes for 2 hours. Then you get a replay of this show. Then following that, it's the new show called The Edge with Matt Humans, who you heard with us last hour, and Jonathan Von Tobel. And at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific every day, my guys in the desert, Brent Musburger and Ron Flatter, right here on VSiN. You can listen on Sirius XM 204, watch on VSiN.com. And I must say that the weekend shows as well. We talked about it with Matt, the 7-hour shows that he's doing, and also Point Spread Saturday and Sunday with Brent. Must watch, must listen stuff. It is great.
This is a great article. Unbelievable article by Kevin Clark, TheRinger.com. The NFL is getting worse at evaluating quarterbacks, and they have a real problem. And it only could get worse. Despite the success of Prescott and Carr, evaluators across the NFL are still looking down at quarterbacks in college that come from a spread offense. Something has to change, or the game's going to get really ugly. Why? Because half the league's starting quarterbacks this year are going to be 30 years or older.
Yeah, think about that.
So what happens when they're out? Clark writes, there's too much time on what the offense looks like and far too little about how they are processing it. The stigma of the spread is hurting these college quarterbacks and the evaluation of them. Steelers GM Kevin Colbert says you have to divorce what they do is divorce the player from the scheme. They look at physical skill, responsibility in the offense, and how they play in big games. I would agree with all of that. And the other problem you have, too, is with college coaches, let the kids go out there and play. Mm-hmm. Stop. How many games do you watch every Saturday where you look, and every time the kid's looking at the sideline for the play? Which, yes, they ran the spread, but Carr and Prescott, their coaches, allowed them to run the offense and audible and do what they wanted for the most part.
At the line of scrimmage,
which
they could go up there
I think is definitely a big reason why they've had success.
Totally agree. And in this story, how about this? Stephen Jones, Dallas Cowboys COO, the quote was, the only reason we had, and he's talking about Connor Cook here, the only reason we had Connor Cook ahead of Dak Prescott is he played in a pro-style offense. Think about how simple that is. Well, at Michigan State,
right,
pro-style offense. For Dak in the SEC, Miss State, nah, we didn't like it because they were spread out too often.
God.
That is so simple, and not breaking down film and looking at it and trusting your scouting. I mean, it's just, it's awful.
Well, some people think that CTE and the health concerns are going to be what could do in the league and why people would also stop watching. But when you see how bad this could be, the on-the-field product, it's only going to get worse. Well, 11 of the top 15 passers by QB rating in 2011 will start week 1 in the NFL in 2016. Clark writes, there's a reason Stafford, Carr, and Luck have taken short month-long turns as the highest in the NFL. If you're under 30 and you have a pulse at QB, you're going to be rich. Tolzien's going to start Sunday. He has 2 career touchdown passes. He's been in the league a long time, but he's starting.
I'll say this. There's no way we're ever going to live in a world where we have 32 really good quarterbacks in the NFL and every team is satisfied. That's impossible. But I think that we're always going to have like 5 or 6 guys that will be considered elite. Because when you go back and think, I mean, when Montana was playing and he handed the baton to Young and Elway was in the league and then Favre and Aikman and everybody, you can look back and say, well, that was really the golden age for quarterbacks. It's not going to get any better than this. It did. It went from that era into Brady and Manning and Breeze and Rodgers. It only got better. So I do think that we are always going to live in a time where we have 4 or 5 really good to terrific quarterbacks. But the problem is, beyond that, I don't know what the hell to expect. I mean, what's the league going to be like if we do not have elite guys at this level right now with Rodgers and Brady and quarterbacks, for example, here? What if quarterbacks are only worth 3 points in the future to the team?
Well, possible.
The state of the league at
when all these guys retire, or most of them retire, what'll happen in 5, 6, 7 years? And if you're going to dismiss guys who come from a spread offense and throw them out, it's ridiculous. You can't do that. As Kevin Clark writes, there's no data to suggest that pro-style offenses produce better NFL players. As spread offenses continue to come throughout college, even Nick Saban is doing it. The old rules of quarterback play are changing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they cannot evaluate these guys at all. And you see how that Goff went number 1. I don't think he can play. We'll see what McVay can do with him. Wentz looks to be a good quarterback. Cook, it's still early, but he felt he was there in the 4th round. The Cowboys walked into something with Prescott, even though they wanted Cook in the worst way. But that goes to back with what they liked at Mississippi State. But Carr looks good. But it is scary to think what happens when these guys who are in their 30s and older just to call it quits and they go away. How bad the quarterback play could be.
I would say this. Maybe the new trend is going to be quarterbacks at that level that can play until they're 38 or 40 like we're seeing right now. Maybe everybody can do that. That seems like an impossibility. But look at this right now on VSiN.com. Imagine if the quarterbacks up on the screen right now were the elite quarterbacks in the league, the guys that are worth 3 points to the line. Jameis Winston, Carson Palmer, Jared Goff is worth 3. Carson Wentz, Blake Bortles, Bradford's worth 2. Glennon's worth 1. Hoyer 1. I think Hoyer's worth more than 1, by the way, over Matt Barkley. Well,
Barkley was cut.
Yeah, he was cut.
That's old. Yep, that was cut. It's
Bedford. But just think about that if we ever get to that point.
Colbert also made a good point, the Steelers GM. When you evaluate guys who come from the spread offense, you have to throw out half the completions because everything's such a short
Dink and
pass,
dunk.
too.
Yeah.
But I understand, too, the thought process that it hurts these kids. We've had multiple guys say, and this is where they're right, the offensive line play stinks because everyone runs the spread in college. And no one run blocks. They don't really teach that. It's not big anymore.
Sure.
But it's not a conventional offense. It's just bam, get the ball out. Bam, let's go. And we want the offensive linemen to be small and fast because we're going up tempo.
But here's the deal. The NFL, there's no developmental league. So why would colleges, if they think it's and college coaches, it's not really their job to groom their players so they're ready for the NFL. It's to win at the college level. So if they think the spread is the best way to win, why would that go away? Why would they say, well, I better come up with a new philosophy and make sure that the players are ready for the NFL rather than giving us the best chance to win in college? That's not going to happen. By the way, the laziness of this reminds me of, well, Russell Wilson is too short. He can't play in the league. Look at Drew Brees. He's only 6'1". We got to pass on him.
Right. That's got to stop.
Yeah.
Good article.
Yeah, really, really fascinating.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was well done on the Ringer.
That was alarming. That half the league's starting QBs are 30 or older this year.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Think about this: 11 of the top 15 passers by quarterback rating in 2011 started Week 1 last year. It's the same guys.
Yeah, could only get worse. This was fun Sunday night, as hot takes exposed, and there's a lot of people who tweeted taking shots at UCLA and how great A&M was when it was 44-10, and that stuff comes back to bite you.
Tweets are up right now at VSiN.com.
The collection of all the tweets out there after UCLA came back to win.
Did a great job. Relegate UCLA. That was a good one. UCLA needs a mercy rule. That was Damon Brooks, who's been on the show talking Game of Thrones many times.
Yeah, they got JT the Brick.
Breaking UCLA is still trash.
Men against boys.
It was one right after another. But it's a 34-point deficit.
I like that. You'll never catch this. I've seen too much in the last few years where it's like, okay, this game's over, forget about it. And it's actually tweet that no.
Game 7 NBA Finals 2 years ago, 2016, when the Warriors gave it up to the Cavaliers. I was absolutely unloading on Steve Kerr. Did a horrible job in that series and in that game, in my opinion. And they lost the game. But the backlash that I got and the followers that I lost, forget about it.
Why? For ripping Kerr?
Oh, I was crushing them the entire game. It was pathetic.
You lost followers?
Oh, tons. Yes, absolutely.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
that sets people off. I
guess it does. Right.
Yeah.
It's Follow the Money, Sirius XM 204 and VSiN.com. Up next, we will talk to John Ewing, BetLab Sports. We'll talk about the big games coming up in Week 2 of college football, and also some good trends to look at in Week 1 in the NFL. That's coming up next.
Stay connected to Follow the Money on social media at VSiNLive and at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard, and at I Am Reynolds 2305. Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard is back. Just like we said we'd be.
Did we just become best friends?
Now buckle up for more top-notch sports betting talk right here on Sirius XM 204.
Get a jump on week 1 in the NFL. Try Point Spread Weekly. It's a new digital magazine from the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Just in time for the football season, here's what you can expect on a weekly basis. Key stats and betting trends for college and NFL matchups, exclusive analysis, including 3 sets of power ratings, the best college and NFL plays of the week from VSiN's on-air experts. That is all in Point Spread Weekly. Sign up now at vsin.com/subscribe. Joined now by John Ewing, BetLab Sports. They do a great job covering college football and the NFL. John, thanks for the time as always. Do you think we're ever going to see a weekend like we had last week in college football? You guys did some great digging on this. And when you looked at the money line dogs last week, they were 8-67 straight up. But because they were such big upsets, you're up plus 31.3 units if you bet all of them.
Yeah, that is crazy. I would love to meet some people that took Howard on the money line. What a win. I mean, 45-point underdogs to win straight up. Crazy. I'm just sure everyone out in Vegas was going nuts.
$25 bet, faraway places to win over $13,000. I mean, I can't imagine something like that.
I know.
Think about that.
That's just a Hall of Fame bet right there. That just goes down.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see how much. I mean, actually, I'm sure the Vegas books are loving that because they're going to get so much more money on these incredible long shots that just don't hit very often. You know, all these, 100 to 1, 600 to 1 on the money line. They're going to get money on that. They're going to come out way ahead this week. So anytime Vegas has I'm putting quote unquote bad weekend or something, usually it works out well for them because that's just free publicity. Bettors, casual fans think, oh, I can do it too. And so they load up the next week only to get cleared out.
Yep. So everyone's going to talk about the marquee games, and rightfully so, the 4 big matchups. I think these 5 late games are really intriguing in college football. They played last year. It was close. Early money on Washington State. They're up to 10 at home against Boise. That's one of the games. Houston has their first game at Arizona. These 5 late games are terrific.
Yeah, Washington State against Boise State. Looking here at my screen, I'm seeing majority of the bets, over 60% of the spread bets are on Washington State, over 70% of the dollars as well. Line open 9, it's up to 10.5. So, moving in that direction against Boise State. Then you said with Houston.
Yep.
Houston, Arizona. Houston on the road as an underdog here. Actually, open pick them. Now they're favored, by a point. And this one's really evenly split. No clear opinion on what side. That's right down the middle on each, but majority of the money leaning towards Arizona.
Yeah, I want to see how Major Applewhite does, taking over for Herman, and Arizona looked good, but they played Northern Arizona last week. Look at BYU off the shutout loss, blown out against LSU. Now they have to play the Holy War against Utah. Then they have Wisconsin after that. How about that schedule? It's brutal.
What's interesting there is some reverse line movement on BYU. And reverse line movement, what that means is the majority of bets are on the other team. So they're on Utah. Right now I'm seeing about 68% of spread bets on Utah. But the line has moved towards BYU. So that can be an indicator of sharp money, of smart money. And so if you're looking for a lean in this game, you might take BYU in it.
How about the other one of the other marquee games coming up on Saturday? We talked to one of our guys from the website here at vsin.com, Matt Humans, earlier. He thinks that the public money will push the Ohio State game up. But it was 7.5 here at the South Point yesterday, John. And now when I came in this morning, I'm looking at Ohio State 7 against Oklahoma. Are you surprised by that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a key matchup. 2 top 10 teams playing each other. Public likes to try and, if they think teams are evenly matched, they will usually back the underdog, thinking, hey, it's a coin flip on who's going to win, so why not take the points? And right now that's what you're seeing over about 60% of the spread bets on the Sooners. But I have a fun little trend here. So top 25 matchups. home favorites of 7 or more points, 88 and 69 against the spread. So that's just over 56% since 2005. I think I'm going to back the Buckeyes in this one. I'm going to go against the public. I'm going to lay the points with Ohio State at home. I like J.K. Dobbins, what I saw out of that young running back last week against Indiana. And I think you can still buy in on him for the Heisman. He was around like 30-1 when they reposted him yesterday. I think there's still some value there. I was looking actually at Heisman before the season. It's a terrible idea to bet it. Usually any player 20-1 or better rarely even finishes in the top 10 in voting, just because it's so hard to impress voters after you had a great season the year before. So you're looking for unheralded players, something like Dobbins there, a freshman that people aren't sure what to expect out of. And I found that there's actually value buying back in on them before week 2, once the lines have moved a little bit, but before we get a clear favorite, like with Lamar Jackson last year. He went from 100-1 to 40-1 before week 2. If you could have got on him just right then, you would have came out obviously really well ahead.
Talking to John Ewing, BetLabSports.com. One more game on Saturday night. I think this is going to be a battle, a big-time battle on every public play will be on USC, yet the Sharps are going to be on Stanford. It's been fluctuating between 6.5 and 7. What do you make of this game?
So right now, it's interesting, though. Majority of bets are on Stanford, according to our contributing sports books. The line is USC minus 6.5. I've seen it at 7 at some books. A trend, though, in top 25 matchups in the Pac-12, the favorite, 45 and 29 against the spread. So just over 60% of the time, the favorite in these, big matchups in the Pac-12, they cover the spread. So it'll be interesting. Again, this is kind of what I said before. If people see USC and Stanford as being fairly evenly matched, you can see the public buying back on the underdog in these high-profile games. We'll see if that changes. Right now, though, that's only tracking around 3,000 bets, and that's going to triple, double from our contributing sports books offline.
Are you surprised by this? And how much money are you seeing for Georgia, even though Eason's out against Notre Dame? Maybe it's anti-Notre Dame because, they beat Temple, and so what?
Notre Dame is typically overrated, especially by the public, by the pollsters. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm seeing the Irish, the open 6.5. The line's down to 4.5 and 4. Over 6% of the bets are on Georgia. So if it starts moving too much, I would buy back maybe on Notre Dame there, laying the points. If you get it down, I would love to see it. If it keeps trending down, get 3. You're seeing over a 3.5-point line move, which typically when you see big moves like that, there's some value going back against the public.
Talking to John Ewing, BetLab Sports. Let's go to the National Football League. You guys have some good Week 1 trends that you pointed out earlier this week on the website, including a road dog with a low total after a bad season. And your example here would be the Jags against the Texans?
Right. Yeah, so with BetLabs, we use our massive database of historical betting information to find winning betting trends. One that has proven itself year over year is in Week 1. In Week 1, you want to buy back on teams that have had bad seasons. It's counterintuitive. Recency bias is something that clouds a lot of casual bettors judgment. And so they see the Jags, they were terrible. They're going, up against Houston, a team that made the playoffs last year. But if you can get a road underdog off a bad season, it's covered almost 57% of the time against the spread. So Jags plus 5.5. And there's another system on that game as well that favors Jacksonville. So 2 pro systems on the Jags at getting points on the road.
This is one of those things where you just got to forget about human emotion, though. You cannot handicap human emotion because of what's going on with Houston, and the players on that team are going to say, well, we have to go out there, and it's going to be like a repeat of Atlanta on the road against New Orleans after Katrina.
Yeah, there's not a big enough sample to draw from to determine if, when there are some kind of natural disaster or a team is impacted by something that's happening in the community to say definitively one way or the other. But we know right now that Jags are just as motivated in week 1. Now, if this was, later in the season, week 12 and on, and they're already out of the playoffs and they're looking forward to the off season, maybe they just come in, and going through the motions, and Houston's ramped up because of everything that's going on there. But both teams should be equally motivated. I just don't see an edge, at least from the impact of the hurricane. We wish everyone well there, and hopefully this game can, bring some joy back to the fans and to the city. But just from a betting perspective, I can't buy into that narrative, at least not right now.
Running the numbers and doing some simulations, you have Atlanta and Tennessee both 9-7. Were there any teams that you liked over or under the win total based on the simulations? Yeah,
and it's a lot of dogs. We like the Jets over their win total. It got down to 4. We liked the Jags were another team that we liked over their win total. I believe it was like 6. Yeah, maybe 6.5, depending on what where you could buy it at. Basically, and then like teams that we wanted to fade were the Bucks. We wanted to take the under with Tampa. They were getting a lot of love, a team that could maybe potentially win their division, but we think they finished 4th behind the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints. So a lot of our numbers were going against teams that were getting a majority of the bets from casual gamblers.
What do you think of this? The Jets are 3 here at the South Point. 3.
I would take that all day. What's the juice?
Over minus 125.
Yeah, give me the Jets. Give me the Jets. It's just such randomness could give them 3 wins, guys. I mean, turnover differential, record in one-score games, touchdowns allowed off of defensive miscues. Just there's so much in the NFL that is trying to push teams to 8-8. It's hard to expect. I mean, it's hard to project the Patriots to win 13 or more games. It just is. It's hard to say the Jets will lose and go 3-13.
Mm-hmm. John Ewing's been our guest. BetLabSports.com, building betting systems with millions of data points. And follow them on Twitter at @bet_labs. John, thanks so much for the time. Enjoy the week one games in the NFL.
Thanks for having me on, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it. Jets have actually been moved up to $1.30 now on the over 3. That's the thing is that, I mean, at 3, I've never seen that before in my entire life. I've never seen anything like under 4. Again. So, I mean, at 5.5, sure, under look great. Now 3, it's wild to think that you could go to the window and say, yeah, you know what, I still like the Jets under 3.
Bet Labs, most likely AFC playoff teams. Patriots 98%, Steelers 82.
They should be 100%.
Raiders 60, Ravens 47, Chiefs 46, Titans 41. They got Atlanta 9-7, Tennessee 9-7. I'm looking at some of the simulations. Most likely NFC playoff teams, Seattle 86, Green Bay 77, Dallas 62, Atlanta 57, Carolina 52, Giants 41. Ooh.
What do you feel about fading the Falcons in week 1 on the road against a bad team,
I'd like
but coming off the Super Bowl loss?
That trend is dynamite. The Super Bowl loser on the road, horrible.
Yep.
It is horrible. Going back, it's a 20-year sample size.
Yeah.
But I don't want you getting involved with the Bears then. But the public will get crazy with that game. Who knows what you're going to get?
I'm on Chicago +7.
I think the pros will take you get better. You get better than that.
Well, we had to have our picks in yesterday by 3:00 in the morning.
Don't yell at me. I'm on the same side. I'm just saying. Well, I'm talking game time here Sunday.
We're on Twitter at VSiNLive, at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard. Up next, today's Major League Baseball card and big game breakdown.
Stay connected to Follow the Money on social media at VSiNLive and at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard, and at I Am Reynolds 2305. Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard is back. Just like we said we'd be.
Did we just become best friends?
Now buckle up for more top-notch sports betting talk right here on Sirius XM 204.
Fantasy football fans, listen up. If you love fantasy football, then you need to be playing on Draft. No salary caps. Play in a real live snake draft, just like you play with your friends in a season-long league, but be done in under 5 minutes. Here is how it works. There are drafts that last for just 1 week, and there is no management. Just set it and forget it. Once you're done drafting, that's it. No trades, no waivers. Draft even takes care of last-minute injuries for you. Drafts start every couple of minutes, so you can go join one right now. And the best part, play for cold, hard cash. Drafts start from just $1, so there's a draft for everyone. And for a limited time only, all new players get a free entry into a real money draft when you make your first deposit. But you have to use the promo code RADIO. That's right. Play a real money game for free just by using the promo code RADIO. Search Draft in your app store or go to playdraft.com and come play free right now with the promo code RADIO. Void where prohibited. Must be 18 or older. Here we go. Time for Big Game Breakdown.
They don't get any smaller.
I was in the pool!
They just keep getting bigger.
It doesn't get much bigger than this.
Follow the Money buffs up the analysis in Big Game Breakdown.
Yeah, big one. The Orioles and the Yankees again tonight. Gray against Gossman. Sonny Gray not getting any run support. Yankees averaging 2.3 runs per him. They've scored 1 or 0 runs in all 4 of the losses. He's 2-4, but he's got an ERA of 3.
Step your game up.
I mean, no support for this guy. He's been terrific since they acquired him from the A's and Gossman. How about this? Since mid-July. Remember, we got off to that horrible start.
Yes.
Since mid-July, he's 5-2 with a 1.73. He's allowed 1 run or less in 6 of the last 9 starts. And I was wrong about this. I mean, the Yankees have a ton of issues in Baltimore. 10-25 in Baltimore since 2014. And they've lost 11 consecutive series.
Yeah.
That's on the line tonight, and they blew it yesterday. Betances blew it in the 9th, and they couldn't hold a 6-1 lead. But they still have a 2.5-game lead over the Angels for the number 1 wild card spot. So unless they go, they have a tough schedule coming up, but they should be safe.
Yeah, by the way, I know the Angels are playing the A's right now, but how about this offense all of a sudden?
8-1 to the over in their last 9.
Boy,
odds makers don't know
right
what.
now.
Oh, they can hit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They win another high-scoring affair. They're throwing Skaggs, by the way. He's got an ERA of almost 10 the last 3 starts.
He's been absolutely
look at his starting
dreadful.
pitching, yeah. They went out and added bats, but Bridwell apparently is tired. He's been lit up his last couple starts. You throw in Nolasco and Skaggs.
I kind of want to see this team get in.
You get Richards back, but he gave up roughed up.
Only went like 3 1/3, I believe, last night. So if this team made the playoffs, I want to see playoff totals not at Coors Field, like around 12. Wouldn't that be great? Angels, Indians.
With the Angels, yeah. Well, good pitching stops good hitting, but with the Angels, I mean, the odds makers don't know what to do. They lead Minnesota by half a game for the second wild card spot. Twins now lose again. I don't take my own advice, and shame on me. Just bet dogs in September. You win money every year because the teams that are out of it and play loose and have call-ups and have nothing to play for usually beat the guys who choke and are tight and are in it and have to win. Just because you have to win doesn't mean you're going to win.
No, of course,
and you're seeing that already. Good teams losing to bad teams and blowing it in the 9th. We only have 2 divisional races with 3.5 weeks left in the season.
Oh, Joe Sheehan.
Terrible.
Who is great on baseball and on Twitter, does the baseball newsletter for SI. He was absolutely bringing the flamethrower to Major League Baseball 2 days ago on Twitter. He hates what it's turned into.
Home run or strikeout.
Well, it was more about how...
Said it's unwatchable?
Your thing. About how he hated the... Well, going back and now looking at expansion and wild cards and more divisions.
Yeah.
And how they don't mean anything.
Yep.
Hates it.
Yeah,
Hates it. And he said baseball gave up September for October, and now football dominates both months.
Oh, that's a great tweet. They sold out.
Yeah, big time.
You'll never see a great pennant race ever again. Like 93 in the Braves.
Oh,
and the Giants.
he was
You'll
so
never
good on
see it
Twitter
again.
2 days ago.
Cubs have a 3.5 game lead over the Brewers, and the Red Sox have a 3.5 game lead over the Yankees. But so what? The loser's going to get one of the wild cards. Oh, it's so great. No, it's not. It also rewards mediocrity. Look at how bad the American League is with these teams. The Angels will make the playoffs. And look at that rotation.
Here's the thing, too. How long on this show have we been saying who's good in the American League? Outside of the very, very top with the Indians and it's at times the Red Sox and the way the Astros played. So the teams that are going to
Yep.
make the playoffs or could make the playoffs, get out of here with that. The Twins might make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're terrible. Red Sox, 7:10 Eastern, first pitch. Fister gets the nod. He's actually been pretty good in the last few starts.
Yeah.
But this is a strange game because they just played the marathon after 19 innings. It went till 1 in the morning. But he's $1.65 at home. And then you have the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. The Diamondbacks go for 13 in a row. This will be a put your money where your mouth is. 2-1 last night. Another winner with the getting plus $1.50 with the Diamondbacks again.
Mm-hmm.
Mate, come on.
Walker
Dodgers
goes
have lost 10 of 11. Hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
You've been betting on the Dodgers.
What a time to hit this funk. Yeah, now
not good.
Plus $1.55 there in the Diamondbacks tonight.
Yep.
Haven't trailed in 9 consecutive games. How good have they been?
And then you got your Indians. Here's Carrasco. Who knows where? God knows where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
Carrasco against Lopez. Indians trying to make it 14 in a row. That's at 8:10 Eastern. Carrasco, 280 here at the South Point. That's only going to go higher.
I will try to track this tonight at books across town. I think Carrasco can go to 350 on the road.
I agree. And some of the square places, stations, yes.
Mm-hmm.
They always take that public money, the square action.
How about all the
Lines
money
go
that came in
crazy.
on the Dodgers again last night?
Yeah, they overreacted. No Goldschmidt. You can't bet this team. They can't hit right now either.
Sure. And Greinke was going last night?
Right. It was, It
so
was
you're
Ryu
betting
against
against him?
Greinke.
Sure.
That was strange.
Diamondback, boy, what did I hear today? It's the second time, I think, in the modern era that two teams at the same time have had 12 and 13 game winning streaks. That's
Great
it?
night for baseball. Diamondbacks win. They have their long winning streak. Indians long winning streak. The second longest game ever at Fenway.
Yeah.
Yankees blow it.
After a 2-hour 50-minute rain delay.
Yep. Verlander gets the win.
How good of
for
a sign is
Houston.
that for the Astros?
It's great. Upton was at the game. Sure. She's hanging out.
What a trade that was for that town.
Yes, right. We got a couple days. How about your Brewers? What happened? They lost again to the Reds.
They're not my Brewers. Don't call them that.
And the big under. The Reds are $1.50 today.
Uh-huh.
That's at 9:30 Pacific first pitch. Couple day games. Twins are throwing some guy I've never heard of too. What a disaster.
You know how you said trust your gut in September, the way that you bet?
It's bet the Dogs.
I had 0 bets yesterday and put your money where your mouth is. My one lean, Phillies plus $1.80.
Never had to sweat it.
Game was over with in the third inning.
Come on, kid. Let's go.
Can't pull the trigger, though.
Yep.
Can't go with my gut, ever. Yeah, so there you go. It's Follow the Money, Sirius XM 204 and VSiN.com. Up next, we have so many more props to go over in the National Football League. We will look at the NFC West and the NFC South next.
Stay connected to Follow the Money on social media at VSiNLive and at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard, and at I Am Reynolds 2305. VSiN Action Update.
Hey, I'm Paulie Howard with your VSiN Action Update. It was a wild night in Major League Baseball. The Red Sox, in the second longest game in Fenway history, beat the Blue Jays 3-2 in 19 innings. Ramirez with the walk-off in that one. They're back at it tonight, 7:10 Eastern. Fister, $1.65, 10 the total in that one. The Diamondbacks win 12 in a row. They beat the Dodgers 3-1 in 10. Walker against Maeda later tonight. 10 o'clock on the East Coast. Maeda, $1.65, 8.5 the total. Verlander and the Astros shut down the Mariners 3-1. Verlander went 6, gave up 1 earned run. And the Indians win again. They beat the White Sox 9-4. That's 13 wins in a row. Plenty of NFL news. Ezekiel Elliott's suspension upheld, but he will play Sunday night, Week 1 against the Giants. U.S. District Court judge will rule Friday whether to uphold the temporary restraining order to prevent the 6-game ban upheld by Harold Henderson. The Dolphins and Buccaneers will not play Sunday in Miami. The league is still figuring out what to do. They could move the game to November 19th, where both teams have their bye week. Memphis and Central Florida are moved up to Friday at 6:30 Eastern. Tyrod Taylor cleared and on track to start Sunday against the Jets, while the Bills put T.J. Yates on IR. Venus Williams rolls on to the semis at the U.S. Open. Up next on Follow the Money, prop culture. James Bond odds, more Trump odds, and plenty of NFL odds coming up.
It's now time to Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard.
$50 the Swales kid picks his note.
Mitch Moss.
We've heard this from NFL coaches before. You can't lose your job due to injury. I call BS on that every single time.
Paulie Howard.
I don't like it when the other guy dictates the terms, and it's like, who are you?
Follow the Money.
Come to the coast, we get together, have a few laughs.
Right here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Sirius XM 204.
Welcome aboard. We are live on the Las Vegas Strip. 1 hour to go here on a Wednesday. We get NFL action tomorrow night. It finally counts. Yeah. It finally matters. We can't wait.
Can't wait.
And you can get a jump on Week 1 in the NFL. Try Point Spread Weekly. It's a new digital magazine from the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Just in time for the football season. Here's what you can expect on a weekly basis. Key stats and betting trends for college and NFL matchups. Exclusive analysis, including 3 sets of power ratings. The best college and NFL plays of the week from VSiN's on-air experts. That is all in Point Spread Weekly. Sign up now at vsin.com/subscribe. Here we go. It's my favorite segment of the entire show. We call it Prop Culture.
All right.
When the sportsbook isn't enough,
we're competitive. The word bet sets off that competitive nature.
Mitch and Paul go off the board for Prop Culture.
I said bet money. Harry said bet. Wayne bet. Spank bet. Joey bet. 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 Bet is bet. Bet.
Prop Culture.
So let's get nuts offshore. Next, Bond girl. Bond 25. Halle Berry 25-1. Jessica Alba 100-1. Selena Gomez 100-1. Rihanna 33-1. Amelia Clark, Dany Targaryen 7-1.
I like her.
Her stock way up. Absolutely. And some model I never heard of, the favorite. 4-9.
I don't know.
Cara
Delevingne? Who is she? I have no idea.
Some model.
She hangs out with Reese Witherspoon, and apparently she's the girl in the picture.
Oh, is that her?
All right, okay. Amelia Clark at 7-1 with the momentum of Game of Thrones and how you could build that and pitch that.
Yeah.
I know people have a problem with trying to make TV stars into movie stars. I don't. Give them a shot. In fact, I don't even like Bond because of Daniel Craig. You and I are different on this.
He's the best Bond. It's not even close.
I think he's unwatchable.
Oh, my God.
But I would go.
Man.
Overrated franchise.
I would actually.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Only gets better with Craig.
I would go to the theater and watch it.
If she was in it?
If she was in it.
She should get the job. She should get it. Little tiny.
Want to see her naked again.
I've only seen one Bond movie ever, by the way, and it was because of Halle Berry.
Yeah, all right. What's this DiCaprio to play the Joker now?
You tell me.
Jared Leto was ticked off because he played it in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
The Warner Brothers reached out and they added Scorsese to help out and be a consultant on this Joker movie they're going to do in the hopes that Scorsese, who's tight with DiCaprio, will get DiCaprio to play the Joker. And I think they're doing other movies about it. And Leto's already signed on to do it, and he's pissed off about what the hell's going on here.
So you can bet who the next Joker is going to be, or only if DiCaprio is going to be?
No, just that. No, this is news here. You can't bet on this, but just that they're reaching out and they want Leo to play the Joker. So how many movies are they going to do on the Joker?
It's like,
and it's got
how many movies can they do on Spider-Man? We have Spider-Man 13
and
coming out now.
Avengers.
Oh, of course, it's
all the other
it's all awful. But
another Thor movie coming out.
I thought Jared was actually good as the Joker in Suicide Squad, although that movie was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
He was solid. He was only in it for like 5 minutes. He needed more time.
Yeah, that was terrible.
So he was good. It was a good follow-up to Ledger, but also...
no one can touch Ledger.
After Ledger died, just no more with that character. You can never top that.
Right. Top 5 performance in movie history.
Agreed.
I thought Nicholson was good.
He was fantastic.
But that ship sailed. He's too old. But Warner Brothers wants maybe DiCaprio, so that's something to follow as well. Trump props, you can't beat these. Russian airport named after Trump, yes, 65-1. Will Michael Moore be deported? 80-1. Could that happen?
Oh, he could force the issue,
yes,
sure, with what's going on.
Yes,
I actually
look at you. Nothing I throw at you.
If there is a sex tape, because you can bet on this, will it get leaked?
Yeah.
The yes is 14-1. If there is a sex tape, it will absolutely get leaked.
At this point, I'm more surprised when a celebrity doesn't have a sex tape.
Of course, right. So if you can bet the 14-1 somehow get down in that, I would do that.
I don't think it was a sex tape. I think it was another tape.
Okay.
Which I can't talk about. Will he be impeached in his first term? Movement here. Yes is now -110. How about that?
I'm not going to go impeached. I like what Matt you said earlier. Would he quit?
Would he quit?
Yeah.
Yes. Trump to commission his own face be added to Mount Rushmore. Yes, 100-1.
Love it.
There's value there.
I absolutely love that.
Yes, that is good.
Stop everything. We're getting my face on Rushmore.
These are my personal favorites. Number 1, will he visit prostitutes at the Moscow Ritz? Yes, 100-1. And Biden meets Trump at an event and punches him in the face. Yes, 100-1.
What happened to Biden? Would he get thrown in jail? I mean, he'd be punching the president of the United States. You can't attack that man.
Throw somebody in jail over emails. I think assault. You're definitely going to jail.
Yeah, right.
You know what's one surprises me, and the yes keeps taking money. Will Trump and Obama play golf in the same foursome? Is 4-1? Yes. That's not going to happen, is it?
Come on. Obama had to come out again yesterday about the whole Dreamers thing.
Yeah.
Put out a statement, and he's highly suggesting you can't do this. We need to stop this.
They're not going to play golf.
There's
Biden's
no way.
got a better chance punching him in the face.
Yeah,
I do think it a bad beat, though. You brought it up in the last hour. If he punches him in the stomach, doesn't cash.
That's right, doesn't cash. That's right. He's got to see him at an event.
Could you see him punching him in the stomach?
Punches him in the face. Hey,
No.
wise guy.
Come on, I'm going to catch you.
Also, France asked for the Statue of Liberty back. Yes, 50-1. They said enough. No mas. We can't take
Give it back.
All props
Enough's
up
enough.
offshore. Trump props.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, so here we go with some NFL props, player props. Russell Wilson, we'll go NFC West first. Passing yards, 4,100. Touchdown passes, 26.5. INTs, 10.5. Anything there with Wilson? Do you like this guy? Are you high on him?
I love him.
Yeah. Charchian.
Offensive line sucked
from
last year.
a fantasy
running
standpoint.
For his life. I love Russell Wilson. Underrated.
Tomorrow when we talk to Paul Charchian, he will tell you do not draft Russell Wilson this year.
You're not asking me a fantasy
Yeah,
question.
sure, right. I don't know what to make of the running back situation. For example, Rawls, his total rushing yards is 400. Eddie Lacy, 750. I don't know. I do like Baldwin to touch the over here of 1,100. He has turned into a really good target. 7 touchdowns his total there.
All right.
Carson Palmer with the Cardinals, 4,300 yards, 25 touchdowns, 14 INTs.
A lot of, as Matt said, a lot of support from the wise guys again. Big disappointment last year. Were favored in 12 of their 16 games. Still didn't have a winning record. Doesn't help this guy's a year older. And they're now favored on the road against Detroit.
Yes, they are.
Week 1.
I'll take the under 4,300 yards. Yeah. One of the reasons why is because I don't like betting big numbers on guys that are injury prone.
Okay, I was going to say the same thing.
I do like his running back, though. He is so good. David Johnson, he is a yards and touchdown machine. His rushing total is 1,200. By the way, you can bet on his receiving yards at 800. So the expectations for this guy, again, 2,000 yards from scrimmage again this year, and 15.5 combined rushing and receiving touchdowns. Give me the under on that. He went for 20 last year. That's very difficult to repeat.
All right.
Receptions for Fitzgerald, 92. Give me the under there. His yards, 950, touchdown 6. I'll take the over on John Brown. I think he's going to be back, and once he's healthy, he's going to have an impact for this team. 700 yards go over, and the TDs are 4. I'll take the over on that. Again, one more here with Charge. He's been recommending Brian Hoyer like crazy.
Yeah, I know.
He loves him as a good fantasy
I think
play.
I could see him put numbers on. I mean, this guy won 10 games in Cleveland.
Yeah.
People, just remember, and other people, the horror show in the playoff loss when he was with the Texans. The guy was good with Chicago as well. Put up numbers. And they're going to get blown out, and he's going to get garbage stats.
Here's the thing, 3,600 passing yards. The total touchdown, 16.5. I'll go over. Total INTs, 12.5. I'll take the over on that, too.
All right.
Carlos Hyde, rushing yards, 950. Total receiving and rushing touchdowns, 7.5. Okay, here you go. Jared Goff, the opening numbers here offshore. 3,400 passing yards, 17.5 touchdowns, 15.5 INTs. What do you do?
No, I can't go over with him.
Yeah.
No way.
Nope.
Can't do it. Don't want to do it. Can't do it.
Could you go over 15.5 INTs? Does he get pulled before it's that ugly?
I could see that.
Is he? Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Gurley is
I don't think they'll do that. I think you find out here, you sink or swim. Or they might
He's
have
the
to
guy?
cut bait. If he can't play this, you're going to have to move on. Because they're also, because of the McVay angle, they'll be right there with Cousins. Matt could be right with San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
but McVay, they'll want Cousins too in L.A.
Gurley, I don't know what to expect from this guy either. It was so bad last year. I actually think he's going to improve this year from what it was like with that running game. 1,100 rushing yards, 9.5 total rushing and receiving touchdowns. Sammy Watkins is 950 in the air and 5 touchdowns. I could only look under on all of the receivers
I
here.
could see Watkins going over.
Not
right?
me. Maybe Austin.
You know what they
He's
like
so low.
is the Cooper Kupp kid.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Apparently a good route runner, and they have a
Love
nice
him.
rapport.
Cam Newton with the Panthers, 3,900 passing yards, 23.5 touchdown passes, 12.5 INTs.
Yep. I think he bounces back, but those are some big numbers. Can I jump in?
Mm-hmm.
Breaking news: Buccaneers Dolphins postponed.
Completely postponed.
They're going to play at Week 11. Yeah, that's the NFL for you. Yep. Can't take away a home game. Can't do it. All about the money. Everyone wants to play Sunday, but you can't take away a home game and play it on a neutral.
I don't care for it.
Stupid.
You can find one of many different
Silly.
spots. And great point by Matt Humans earlier today in the show when he said the owner here, Stephen Ross for the Dolphins, he is going to fight for this to be a Week 11 game. Players didn't want to be. They wanted to play on Sunday.
Absolutely.
He is the guy that voluntarily gave up a home game to go play in London this year.
Yep.
So, okay.
They get it wrong again.
Can't do 2, though?
No surprise.
Oh.
I think Newton bounces back, don't you?
Yeah, but those are still,
we
those are still
disagree
pretty
on
high
that.
numbers.
I love it. I love all these McCaffrey props over.
1,150 combined receiving and rushing yards.
I love McCaffrey. I think he's going to be a weapon that no one will be able to stop.
See, I like
throwing him the ball out of the backfield.
I like the yards over. I like his touchdowns under 8. I don't think he's going to be the goal line guy.
I could see that.
I don't think he's going to be the goal line guy.
Rip off some long touchdowns too.
I think that's what he's going to have to do is rip off, a 27-yarder or a 53-yarder. I don't think he's at the inside the 5. I think it's going to be Jonathan Stewart. You like Newton to bounce back? I can't believe I'm going to say this. Well, if you asked me back in April when the fat photos came out of Kelvin Benjamin, I said, oh, here we go. Forget about this guy. I loved what I saw with him in the preseason. I loved him come out of Florida State. He was an unbelievable target as a rookie a couple of years ago for Cam Newton. And 950 receiving yards. I liked the yards. I'm not so sure about the touchdowns. I think goes over 7. And Greg Olsen under 1,100 yards receiving. Want to do one more here in the South? 2 more. We got 2 more to go in the South.
Go ahead.
Matt Ryan, 4,800 yards, 33.5 touchdowns, 10.5 INTs.
I don't want the under. They were an over machine, and he had video game numbers.
Yeah.
Although it's our buddy Sark though taking over.
That's the crazy thing because we'll 4,800 and 33.5 touchdowns. It sounds nuts, but because of their offense, their weapons, and the state of the league, pass happy like this, I can't look under. And here's another one too. Drew Brees, you can pencil him in for 5,000 yards every single year. His prop is, it sounds crazy, it's 4,900. Is this the year to stay away from, do you go under because now with the running attack and maybe the defense is improved, they're going to change the style maybe a little bit?
I still like, Peyton still likes to throw it around, but this guy, it's possible he's underrated. I mean, he's still 38 years old.
He is completely underrated.
Look at his numbers. He's top 5 in all these categories every year. QB rating.
He has been so good for 10 to 12 years now, and it's never about how good Drew Brees is. It's always been about look at Peyton Manning, look at Tom Brady, look at Aaron Rodgers. He's always like the 4th fiddle, if that. and he's one of the best of all time.
And imagine if he had a defense. So back-to-back-to-back 7-9 seasons. I think they get a wild card this year.
Yep.
I think the defense is average. They take a big step up, and they're at least average and not god-awful. And they get the running game. And they were 7-1 ATS on the road last year.
Yeah.
And 7 of the 9 losses were by a touchdown or less. So I think they get the breaks go their way this year.
How do you look at the running back situation here? Adrian Peterson rushing yards, 750. That's the same as Mark Ingram. The touchdowns for Peterson, this is rushing and receiving, 7.5. And the number for Mark Ingram is 6.5.
I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what he's going to do. I have no opinion. I don't know how. I can't wait to watch Monday night, though.
Tough to get a gauge.
AP goes back home. Saints on. I think the Saints beat the Vikings Monday night.
I got him 3.5.
I don't know what. Good for you. I don't know what he's going to do. I got to see what Peyton does with that.
Michael Thomas, for news purposes here, 1,200 receiving yards. Oh, he's going to turn into a great number one receiver for Drew Brees, 8.5 touchdowns. And then one more team here. I was kidding. In the South, Jameis Winston, 4,200 yards, 27.5 touchdowns, 16.5 INTs. And you look at Mike Evans, who Winston loves this guy, and he's got a lot of weapons. I still think he's going to look at Evans first a lot this year. 1,200 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns for Evans.
I don't want anything over with Winston. And I'll tell you, I know it's a TV show and how they do it. If you watched every episode of Hard Knocks, there was nothing to like with the Buccaneers offense. Nothing. They showed all these practices, Cutter getting in Winston's face. You have Evans, you have Jackson, you have Howard. It's an embarrassment of riches. But I think the big problem is Winston.
I will say this. There is absolutely nothing to like about Week 1. Game's been canceled. Postponed today.
And
breaking news came down about 5 minutes ago.
And Miami and Arkansas State also canceled.
That
Miami
is canceled
Hurricanes.
too. Okay.
That just came down.
It's Follow the Money. You can follow us on Twitter at VSiNLive, at Mitch Moss Radio, and at Paulie Howard. Paulie is with a Y. We will do Win Some, Lose Some coming up next.
Stay connected to Follow the Money on social media at VSiNLive and at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard, and at I Am Reynolds 2305. Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard is back. Just like we said we'd be.
Did we just become best friends?
Now buckle up for more top-notch sports betting talk right here on Sirius XM 204.
Give us a follow on Twitter at VSiNLive. I'm at Mitch Moss Radio. He's at Paulie Howard. Paulie's also on Snapchat. He was going to ask about people following him there. What's your handle on Snapchat?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, you have.
It's a lot of puppy dog filter that he uses.
Is that okay? All right.
Yeah, sure.
Long tongues that hang out all over the weird stuff. Okay. All right. Here we go. Win some, lose some.
Rough night.
The who? The her.
Good night.
Winner, chicken dinner.
How does it make you feel?
It doesn't matter how it makes you feel.
Follow the Money looks back so we can learn for today.
Won't you tell me where all the good times go?
Win some, lose some. Let the education commence.
All right, bad beat, Yankee fans. CC couldn't hold a 6-1 lead, but Tansis blew it in the ninth. Orioles hit 4 home runs. Machado with the walk-off. Can't lose games like that in September.
Nope.
Orioles win 7-6. Lose some. Dodgers bet up from $1.20 to $1.45. They've lost 10 of 11. Diamondbacks beat them 3-1. Diamondbacks have won 12 in a row. They go for the sweep later tonight. Bad for the books. Pirates open plus $1.75, close plus $1.55. Edwards blows it in the eighth. Pirates come back to win 4-3. Bad loss for the Cubs. Brewers lose 2. Cubs still 3.5 up. Now they've lost 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody wants this. Twins Rays under 9.5, bet down to 9. Big sexy Colon was terrific, but he loses 2-1. Twins left a tying run on third in the ninth. They've now lost 3 in a row. Tigers open plus $1.30, close plus 105. The markets and the wise guys hate Vargas. His ERA and numbers don't match up with his advanced metrics. He was roughed up 2 innings. Gave up a ton of runs, and they lost 13-2. Also, Red Sox, bad beat. Also bad for the books. Bad night for the shops. They open $1.75, closed as high as $2. Osuna, again, 2-0 in the bottom of the ninth. Red Sox get 2 to tie it. Ramirez wins it in the 19th. Second longest game in Fenway history. 1:11 in the morning. 3-2 Red Sox. Osuna blows another one. Demote him. He's terrible.
You saw that coming right away last night, too, in the ninth.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Cardinals open $1.45, close 165. They beat the Padres 8-4. And Strasburg and the Nationals open 160, close 180. He got the win, and they won 2-1. Murphy hit a home run there. Rough night for the shops. All those are bad for the books. That's win some, lose some.
I feel like nobody is talking about the Nationals. It's all about how good the Dodgers were, and now they're in their only funk of the season. Diamondbacks, a lot of it was about the Astros, Indians now as well. And here we are with the Nationals. I know they've had injuries with Harper, and Scherzer's been getting tweaked almost every single start, but if they get healthy,
I know.
Then get everybody back in the playoffs.
Well, how about it looks like it could be the Nationals and the Cubs in the first. I mean, how good is that playoff series?
Oh, yeah.
That is juicy. Mm-hmm. Vargas gave up 7 runs and 7 earned in 2 innings, by the way.
Okay, so we found out yesterday afternoon / last night that the 6-game suspension was upheld for Ezekiel Elliott. Now, he has basically filed for a temporary restraining order, meaning that he can play on Sunday night against the Giants. Cowboys now 4. They were 3.5 yesterday against New York. After that, who knows?
Do you think the judge will grant the stay Friday, which means then he can play?
I would lean yes.
And they're going to take it to the federal level anyways?
Sure.
I don't know.
And once it gets to that level, my understanding is the judge that's going to overlook this, he might have a million other things to do. So to make this like priority number 1, that's not the way it works. So I don't know if we're going to have a result where the judge is going to say, yep, you're done. You're suspended from weeks 2 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
It could be later on in the season.
Or next year.
Sure.
It could be Deflategate all over again.
Exactly right.
And then they got the win when Brady's team and the same lawyer, Kessler, beat the NFL, and then it got overturned. And then at the end, they said, well, you collectively bargained for this. Goodell can do what he wants.
Right.
Stop, too bad for you. Go pound sand. So that could happen as well. That he's just, and you talk to other lawyers that he's not going to be able to win this.
No, I've heard lawyers saying today that if they were advising Zeke Elliott in this case, they would say, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I can't believe it wasn't.
But you just take the suspension.
I can't believe it wasn't even knocked down, though, at least. with the new info with Kia Roberts, and she's only the person that talked to the accuser and recommended nothing, and didn't believe Tiffany Thompson, the accuser, and then the Giants fan,
right?
That Friel girl goes to Goodell. You don't need to talk to Roberts. I mean, this is Lewis.
But here's my thinking on this, and I saw it from Frank Schwab, who covers the NFL for Yahoo Sports. I think he was spot on. He said there is no way you can knock this down. It's either 0 games or 6 games. He either hit her or he didn't. So which one is it?
Well, you don't know that. What if she's making it up?
Of course. So then why would they give him 6 games right now if they don't know? They're panicking. They're assuming.
Yeah.
And in the long run, I would bet the NFL is going to get this wrong because they've gotten everything else wrong in the previous 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that's right. But that's why Jerry Jones lost his mind. He was told there's nothing here, and then bam, 6 games.
Right.
That's why he flipped out.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this guy's got to stop being a knucklehead and think about his life and who he hangs out with, and stop with the other business. And who knows? Maybe he did it. Maybe he is a scumbag.
Of course, there's a possibility.
But
sure.
Also lifting the girl's shirt up. The bar fight. It's enough already.
I just think that the NFL it's going to be Deflategate all over again, to where they're going to fight this and say we're going to get 6 games eventually. Maybe it doesn't happen this year. Maybe it happens at the end of the year. Maybe it happens in 2018.
How can they not see the egos on these pricks? How can they not see he cannot be judge, jury, and executioner? That's lunacy. Doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere. No. That's not. Shouldn't be allowed. Where this guy's got
totally agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the public actually demanded it back when Pac-Man Jones was going on because there were so many off-the-field incidents.
Right, it was out of control. Tagliabue was so bad, too. It was nothing. I mean, Leonard Little killed somebody, and he got 6 games, right? 6, 8, whatever
how
it was.
How about Stallworth?
Yeah.
Same thing. He was back in the league.
But it
killed a jaywalker.
But they're all over the place, though. This is just with Goodell. Ray Rice gets 2. Oh, we didn't see the tape. Liar. Mm-hmm. Yes, you did.
Right.
And then Josh Brown got 1. That was last year. So it's like whoever he's buddies with, they catch the break. Mm-hmm. But now, Jerry Jones, I don't know, he goes to bat for him, but now here he screws the Cowboys and Jerry Jones.
The NFL betting season is here, and VSiN has responded with more programming when you want it. We kick off every weekday from 7 a.m. Eastern to 10 a.m. with Follow the Money. We are then followed by a numbers game with Gil Alexander. He goes for 2 hours, and you get a replay of this show at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. It is The Edge with Matt Humans and Jonathan Von Tobel. And then at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger and Ron Flatter. We've got you covered live from Las Vegas' only 24/7 sportsbook here at the South Point. Weekdays, bright and early at 7 Eastern, live on VSiN, Sirius XM 204, and VSiN.com. Up next, Vinny Maiulo is going to join us from the sportsbook here at the South Point. You won't believe what's going to have to happen at the Golden Nugget now that Tillman Fertitta owns the Rockets. That's coming up next.
Stay connected to Follow the Money on social media at VSiNLive and at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard, and at I Am Reynolds 2305. Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard is back. Just like we said we'd be.
Did we just become best friends?
Now buckle up for more top-notch sports betting talk right here on Sirius XM 204.
And try Point Spread Weekly, the new digital magazine from Vegas Stats and Information Network, just in time for the football season. Here's what you can expect on a weekly basis: key stats and betting trends for college and NFL matchups, exclusive analysis, including 3 sets of power ratings, the best college and NFL plays of the week from VSiN's on-air experts. That's all in Point Spread Weekly. Sign up now at vsin.com/subscribe. Vinny Maiulo joins us now from the South Point Sportsbook here on a Wednesday. Vinny, thanks for the time. Can you explain to our listeners, I guess, because there's a lot of confusion with this. What happens if they bet Week 1 game between the Dolphins and the Buccaneers a long time ago, and the games that get canceled, what you guys do here?
Yeah, that game, Mitch, is going to be a refund. And again, here's the thing to remember. These games went up last spring because it's Week 1. So because there's a relocation of the games, then that game will be refunded. That particular matchup that's up there, that was up there going into this week, and then a new game will be set up. Now, obviously, they're still trying to determine, if they're going to play that game this week or they're going to use the bye week down the road to reschedule it. But right now, we had
breaking news not too long ago, Vinny. They postponed the game. It's going to be during the bye week.
Yeah. So then we'll just wait for the bye week. So this week's game will be refunded. Now the other question is, what if somebody had it in a parlay or a teaser? Then let's say it was a 3-teamer. Well, that'll get reduced to a 2-teamer. If it was a 2-teamer, it'll get reduced to a straight bet on the other team.
LSU BYU was moved from Houston to New Orleans, so that was also a refund. You had to put up a different line. How about Memphis and Central Florida moved up a day to Friday afternoon now?
Memphis and Central Florida, but the location is the same,
right,
Paul.
Right.
So, so the number will be the same. We'll probably, because it got moved to a date, sometimes we'll specify that. If the dates change too, often the game will be refunded. But in this case, I think what we're going to do is just keep that where it is at price-wise and just change the date on it. Or what we did with LSU and BYU was obviously it got changed a little bit closer. It was kind of a quasi-home game for LSU, so we adjusted it by 2 points. We refunded the original and then set up a new game.
You've been in this racket a long time, and we already had it Friday with the Navy-Florida Atlantic game. When I was growing up as a kid, it didn't, and certainly all these games weren't on television. I don't remember all these lightning delays and games getting cut short. And the Navy game eventually got there after 3 delays in the fourth quarter. It took 3 hours. But this, I mean, you're on pins and needles here if you're a bettor. The game's got to go 55 minutes. You can cash your ticket.
You're on pins and needles as a bookmaker too, because you want to be able to pay people. You know, you want to be able. You don't want to have to deal with, explaining that at the counter and everything like that. So you didn't hear about it as much growing up, Paul. Because a lot of times, your private guy he just made an arbitrary decision depending on what kind of customer you were too. Let's face it. But the greatest example of all was probably about a dozen or so years ago, where Wisconsin was here playing UNLV out at Sam Boyd Stadium, and somebody, a truck ran into a transformer, and the game got canceled with I think it was less than 10 minutes to go. Of course, the great conspiracy theory was because we were overloaded on Wisconsin money that, we drew straws and somebody drove into that transformer. I can tell you that's not the case.
So that was a refund on all tickets. I'll never forget that. I was at that game, and so many Wisconsin people came out for that contest too. And I think the line moved from like 3 to 9 because they all pounded the number and they were covering easily, and they were so pissed off because they didn't understand the rules.
Yeah, Mitch, it was one of the greatest refund disasters ever. You're right. Of the 40,000 out there at Sam Boyd, I think 39,000 were Badger fans, and that was. That wasn't a lot of fun. But listen, here's the thing. Pay attention to the rules. One of the rules that's the most consistent is that a football game has to go 55 minutes to be official for betting purposes.
Spot on.
By the way, Paul, you mentioned the You mentioned the Florida Atlantic game the other day. The Navy coach offered to say, hey, look, we're done. You guys, but Kiffin didn't want to end that game.
Yeah.
So he insisted on playing the game. And there were several delays, but he insisted on playing that game out.
Yeah, it took like 6 hours overall. All right, talking to Vinny Maiulo. He's on Twitter at Vinny. So let's ask you about this. Tony Miller is in for, I can't wait to get him on the show and talk about this. So the owner of the Golden Nugget, Tillman Fertitta, he bought the Rockets yesterday for $2.2 billion. You cannot bet the Rockets games at the Golden Nugget. You can't bet them to win the future. You can't bet them to win the Western Conference or the NBA title. It's just going to be a crazy scenario. And I guess, Paulie was saying earlier, that's a huge Rockets shop because they get a lot of people from Houston. You were involved with Caesars back in the 90s when they owned a part of the Knicks, and that was when the Knicks were actually good, and Jordan was in the league. What was that like?
It was a nightmare. In July of 1995, ITT Corporation, which owned Madison Square Garden, which also in turn owned the Knicks and the Rangers NHL team, bought Caesars World and included Caesars Palace. So, again, it happened in July. So here's how we had to handle it at the time. The Gaming Control Board said, look, any wagers that were made prior to this official sale were to be honored. But we had to cease taking weight. Now, at that time, we could not take wagers on any NBA or NHL team. So there was a couple of seasons where Caesars, as great a, and that was we did a lot of business over there back then.
Uh-huh.
We could not take the NBA or the NHL. Now, that was when we made some significant adjustments because don't forget at that time also, there was another place up the street that was open. There was a lot of expansion going on at that time, and the MGM had opened as well. So the adjustments we made were things like putting up a nickel baseball line, started putting up all first halves in NFL football. Halftime, we started expanding the wagering menu. By the way, in today's Review Journal, guys, at the top of the sports section, it's saying that the NBA futures are back at the Golden Nugget. I guess, and that would be until the sale is final. Now, what the board will do is this, and you have to credit the Gaming Control Board here and the commission here, because they'll do what's fair. And I would anticipate, I don't want to speak on behalf of them, but I would say this, that any wager that was made prior to should be honored. And that's a fair statement. The other thing you got to remember is you got one of the more progressive commissioners in sports right now, Adam Silver. Maybe this actually, in a strange way, accelerates, all of the acceptance. And the fact of the matter is that, now whatever the bylaws are, I mean, obviously they'll have to abide by. But Adam Silver, I think, will work with the regulators here to make a determination, whether it's the entire league or just wagers on Houston Rockets.
When the sale is official, isn't Tony better off not even putting up odds to win it? Because he could look at the doomsday scenario where the Rockets win the West, go to the finals, or win the whole thing, and he's still got to pay out because he can't pay Rockets.
That's a good question, Paulie, but haven't been in that position. What I would try to do is book as much as I could. I would reset it, depending on what the ruling is by the league in conjunction with the regulators here. So let's say it's just the Rockets that are not allowed, which would be, the better of the two scenarios. I would say this, look, you know what? You book the Eastern Conference, obviously. You book the Western Conference, and if you need to put up a stipulation as, how that's going to work, maybe it's the runner-up or whatever, but as long as people know, but you'd have to reset up the entire future book, and any wager made prior to the sale being official is separate. It's a separate pool compared to what you could do moving forward.
I can't believe in the heyday of Jordan you couldn't take any NBA action. What a killer that is. So did you
my Lord. Don't forget. Yeah. 95, 96, Bulls, Sonics, 96, 97, Bulls, Jazz, 97, 98. And then they sold that's when Park Place bought it in 99. Well, I'll tell you what, that was, we got creative though, I can tell you that. Nickel baseball line was a lot of fun.
All right.
What a disaster. Let's have the odds maker poll. What do you have top 10 teams in college football, you and Johnny Avello?
Johnny and I we're in agreement. Bama and Ohio State numbers 1 and 2. I've got Clemson 3. Johnny has Oklahoma 3. And I've got it flipped. Oklahoma 4. He has Clemson 4. Then I go Auburn. He has Penn State. I've got Washington. He's got Washington. In the 7th slot, I've got LSU. He's got Auburn. We both have SC in the 8th spot. I've got Penn State 9. He has LSU 9. I've got Wisconsin 10. He's got Michigan 10.
Did you guys drop USC a little bit because of how they looked against Western Michigan?
Yes, we did. That's a good question. And I had SC last week. I had him number 6, so I dropped him a little bit. But I got to be honest with you guys. It's still pretty close after Bama and Ohio State. And again, and there's an article at VSiN.com and in our newsletter where I put, and this is not me plugging it, but I want to make sure people understand this. And the name of the article is Prices Don't Determine Point Spreads. All right. Polls don't determine prices. And our poll is our power ranking. That's where we start. And that's why oftentimes you get a team that, when you look at the AP poll and you say, hey, this team's got 2 losses and they're on the road against a team that's undefeated, and the road team, the team with 2 losses, is favored. Well, there's a reason for that.
I'll tell you, Vinny, you're spot on.
In terms of our positioning.
It's too bad for Florida State, Vinny, that the quarterback there, Francois, had to get banged up and he's out for the year, because to me, that defensive performance against Alabama, I think I might have been more impressed with their defense than I was with Alabama's. I mean, how many times Bama, I think, they started off with a drive inside Florida State territory and they couldn't do anything 5 times.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah, that's a great point, Mitch. And by the way, I've got FSU. I think I have them number 11 right now. It's a terrible loss. Here's the thing about Alabama you have to remember, because Francois, he got physically beat. Alabama is almost like a fighter, and it's a fighter, the type of fighter that just pounds the body and then just makes, they punish you, for 8 rounds, and then all of a sudden, come the 9th and 10th round, your arms are down because you're so banged up. That's exactly the physical aspect of Alabama showed. The physical conditioning, I think, showed. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Florida State by any means, because they're still a good team. But the fact of the matter is Alabama is just the kind of team that just wears opponents out the longer the game goes on.
Totally agree. It's a war of attrition, and when that happens, I'll take Alabama's side every single time.
Yep.
So
there you go.
Great stuff, Vinny. Good talking to you. Enjoy the games this weekend, okay?
Always good to be with you guys.
Same here. He's on Twitter at VSiNVinny. Anything stick out there in the top 10?
I think USC's too low.
At 8?
I'd have them higher, yeah.
Can't wait for Saturday night. 4 games at the same time this Saturday night.
That's silly. That's silly. And they're going to run into the 5 late games, which are good.
Correction. It's even a better reason to live in Las Vegas.
That's right.
You come to a book like right here at the South Point, you grab a seat, you pull up a chair, and then you're in for the next 5 hours.
The Jordan heyday, you can't take any NBA bets when the ratings were through the roof.
Think about that.
What a horror show.
Not just on the Knicks.
Any NBA.
Because of the ownership. Any NBA.
Oh.
With Jordan.
Can you imagine playoff time? How many times they had to explain that? Sorry, we own a piece of the Knicks. The Knicks. Oh my
I can't bet the Bulls in the play in the.
What?
So even when the Bulls would advance past the Knicks, and they're taking, like you said, 96 against the Sonics, then against the Jazz, and again against the Jazz. No action here. We can't take it. Can't accept it.
No, I can't.
It's 20 years later, and the same rule applies. Fertitta just bought the team for $2.2 billion. What kind of shenanigans do you think will take place?
At least the Maloofs got their way. That was the original ruling with the Maloofs.
Yeah,
when they had
right.
And they said, okay,
we'll just take the Kings off the board. Right.
But now it's coming. Come on, guys.
James Harden makes, $28 million a year.
Yeah.
Signed with a shoe company for $200 million. Hey, he's betting $5,000 a game on the Rockets. Yeah.
Sure, it's good. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Well, he's going to try to come in. Give me $2 million. I'm going to take the 7.5.
I mean, right. It's follow the money.
Who's the guy in a beard trying to bet $2 million?
Yeah,
like that.
He's got a hat on. I can't recognize that guy. Big beard, but okay. All right. Up next, put your money where your mouth is, and we'll find out what's coming up with Gil Alexander on a numbers game.
Stay connected to Follow the Money on social media at VSiNLive and at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard, and at I Am Reynolds 2305. Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard is back. Just like we said we'd be.
Did we just become best friends?
Now buckle up for more top-notch sports betting talk right here on Sirius XM 204.
Yes, sir. This is your new lineup here on VSiN, just in time for the football season. Follow the Money, Monday through Friday, 7 to 10 Eastern. We're followed by Gil Alexander with a numbers game. We're going to find out what's coming up in his show coming up momentarily. Then you get a replay of our show, The Edge with Matt Humans and JVT at 3 o'clock Eastern. And they are followed by My Guys in the Desert at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. All right, here we go. Put your money where your mouth is. Major League Baseball card coming up tonight. Paulie, what do you have?
Go with the Diamondbacks again. Ride the streak. Dodgers have lost 10 of 11. Diamondbacks looking for 13 in a row. Betting number 961. Take the plus 155 return with Walker. And also let's add Trump to commission his own face be added to Mount Rushmore. Yes,
at 100 to 1.
That's an unofficial play. I'm not adding that.
If that comes through, you're going to add that, and you're going to. Okay, apologize.
That'll happen.
I have 2 plays here today in the same game. I will go. There's a doubleheader here: Rangers Braves. In the first game, I'm going to go Hamels minus $1.08 against Teheran on the road, and I'll go over the 9 in that game. So 2 plays.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Biden, too, to punch him in the face.
I don't like that bet.
Oh,
I don't like
no
that
value?
Bet. No. I would take the 14-1 at the sex tape getting leaked.
Okay.
So I said something today earlier in the show. I was wrong on it because we were talking about Tillman Fertitta and how he purchased the Rockets yesterday. And I said, all right, I heard no relation to the Fertittas that own the UFC.
No,
I'm dead wrong.
No.
Here, I heard Dan Lebitard say this yesterday. He was adamant about it. And I guess Trump's been right all along. # fake news. He was wrong. They are third cousins.
Yes.
So I went with what Lebitard said. And I was wrong because he was wrong. My apologies.
All right.
Also, somebody that is adamant about something is Gil Alexander. What's going to happen to Ezekiel Elliott? You're convinced he's playing all year?
He's playing the entire season. I'm convinced. He's playing the entire season because there's no way the judge is not going to grant the injunction on Friday. Ezekiel is going to get to play the entire time. Now, he may have to serve that suspension next year, but I am convinced that he plays the entire season. This is what happens. The judge went after the NFL yesterday, if you read into it. This is what happens when the NFL completely ignores process. Despite, a collective bargaining agreement, you actually have to follow process. And the one person who actually talked to Ezekiel in the NFL side of thing, who would have recommended no suspension whatsoever, apparently never talked to Roger Goodell. That's their story.
The whole thing's amazing.
It's unbelievable. So if you have a fantasy draft tonight, I will just let you know Ezekiel getting drafted very high. Not top 4, but feel free to draft him high.
If you were drafting tonight,
yes,
where would you consider pulling the trigger on him?
I wouldn't draft him ahead of Le'Veon or David Johnson. I wouldn't draft him ahead of Julio Jones or Antonio Brown. But after that, I'm all in.
That is strong. I heard a lawyer talking about this today. He thinks that there's a chance the judge could actually, because the judge that's going to overlook this could be so busy he or she doesn't make this priority number 1. So the plate could be completely full for the judge, and they might get to it later on in the season, and the suspension actually might come. There's a chance, small chance, that it could come, let's say, starting in week 14.
Oh, they won't do that, I don't think. Even the NFL
They would hold off until next year
Absolutely.
if that's the case?
Yeah, because that would be such a competitive disadvantage for the Cowboys at that point. So I believe, and I have believed all along, for reasons of just process, that the NFL is so overstepping. They're doubling down on stupid in all of this. And I believe he plays the entire season. I'm convinced of it.
You think he misses all 6 games next year then?
He may.
It's going to be the same thing like Deflategate?
A la Tom Brady.
Yeah,
maybe. Look, it doesn't make it right, but that's how this might play out. So, listen, no one is condoning domestic violence. Let's say that up front. It's an awful thing. But you cannot, because of your PR disasters when dealing with domestic violence in the past, you cannot have 2 wrongs make a right. If you or me, if any of us were charged with something domestic violence related, but we honestly did not do anything, we would fight tooth and nail to the end to have that expunged and to have that nowhere near our reputation forever. So Ezekiel Elliott and his attorneys are going to do just that.
Okay, so what would you recommend to people betting the season-long win total with the Cowboys? If you like it, now is the time to bet it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a play there because, I think the Cowboys, everything kind of went their way last year. So I think the season win total is kind of where it ought to be. I don't know that his absence or inclusion right now makes it a sprint to the window, to be quite honest with you. I think that's a bit of overreaction. Obviously, I think they're better off with him than without him, but I don't know that it triggers a bet for me at this point.
All right, what do you have coming up on a numbers game?
Mike Sando, one of my favorite advanced stats guys for the NFL from ESPN, is here to talk about the quarterbacks that are most on the hot seat, talk about tanking in the NFL.
How about that?
Which we're seeing. Also going to have Jay Cornegay here to talk about all the implications, this Dolphins-Bucks thing that's happening as well with the postponement of that game. Jason Weingarten and our own Vinny Magliulo making a rare morning appearance.
Very cool. I saw that story from David Purdom on ESPN Chalk about the Jets and how bad they're expected to be. 200-1 to win the division. The Westgate's taken 6 bets at 1,000 to 1
to win it
this
all.
Year for a combined $55. And Ed Salmons thinks
that right?
Ed Salmons thinks that if the Patriots need the game, the Pats could be laying 28 points in Week 17 against the Jets.
Just keep in mind, Mitch, it's 55 United States dollars.
Yeah, right, there you go. That's coming up next with Gil Alexander on a numbers game. Well, tomorrow, here we go. We have Week 1. It starts. It's official. The champs are in action against the Chiefs. Can't wait to talk more about the National Football League. Stay tuned for Gil. That's next.
Stay connected to Follow the Money on social media at VSiNLive and at Mitch Moss Radio, at Paulie Howard, and at I Am Reynolds 2305. VSiN Action Update.
The National Football League has officially postponed Sunday's Tampa Bay Buccaneers-Miami Dolphins game due to the threat of Hurricane Irma. The game will be played in Miami in Week 11, a previously open bye week for both teams. On Tuesday, the NFL had started contingency planning. Irma was upgraded to a Category 5 storm and has kept its strength. Dallas Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott eligible to play in Sunday's season opener against the New York Giants, even though an arbitrator upheld Elliott's 6-game suspension handed down by Commissioner Roger Goodell that stems from a domestic violence case. In a temporary restraining order hearing in U.S. District Court on Tuesday in Sherman, Texas, NFL attorneys acknowledged that because of the timing of arbitrator Harold Henderson's decision to uphold the suspension for violating the personal conduct policy, Elliott will be able to play Week 1 against the Giants. His eligibility, Elliott, that is, for Week 2 at the Denver Broncos in doubt. We will get into that momentarily on a numbers game here at VSiN. And Ray Lewis said that the Baltimore Ravens chose not to sign Colin Kaepernick after the quarterback's girlfriend posted a, quote, racist tweet featuring the former All-Pro linebacker and owner Steve Bisciotti. Quote, we were going to close the deal to sign him, Lewis said on Showtime's Inside the NFL on Tuesday. Steve Bisciotti said, I want to hear Colin Kaepernick speak to let me know that he wants to play football. And it never happens because that picture comes up the next day. This is your VSiN Action Update.
Coming to you live from the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is a numbers game with Gil Alexander.
He's one of those idiots who believe in analytics.
On Sirius XM Channel 204.
If you're not a genius, don't bother, all right?
Taking the sabermetric approach and focusing on the statistics and variables that come into play. Now, here's Gil Alexander.
Less than 48 hours away from the kickoff of the NFL season. How great is this? A numbers game at VSiN. Gil Alexander, thank you to everybody listening at Sirius XM Channel 204 and watching us at vsin.com. Appreciate you hanging out with us during our new times on the show today. Mike Sando from ESPN, one of my favorite NFL advanced analytics guys, and just another of the cast of characters that we're going to have on a numbers game throughout the football season. For those who are unfamiliar with the schedule, Thursdays, each and every Thursday on a numbers game, we will have a round table to discuss the NFL slate coming up with Warren Sharp, Bill Krackomberger, and Evan Silva. Just a murderer's row on Thursday to talk NFL. Friday, James Salinas, former Super Contest winner, will be here to talk NFL, while Dr. Bob and Preston Johnson will be here to talk college football. And then Monday's Guessing Line story time with Chrissy Andrews. And then the rest of the week, maybe not every week, but a rotating cast of characters, including Aaron Schatz and the aforementioned Mike Sando as well. So Mike is going to stop by today to discuss tanking in the NFL. It's a thing. We'll get into that with Mike momentarily on the show. Not momentarily, but coming up in a bit. Also, the quarterbacks that are most on the hot seat. Jay Cornegay will join us from the Westgate to talk about the implications of this Dolphins and Buccaneers game move, the Ezekiel Elliott matter, how he has handled that, and his biggest liability this weekend on both the NFL and college football slates, plus our own Vinny Magliulo momentarily to discuss the implications of this Zeke matter as it pertains to all the movement in all the markets, season win totals, division odds, right here at the South Point Hotel Casino. So we're anxious to get to Vinny. Also, Jason Weingarten on baseball. Jason and I got in an argument about the Dodgers, so we'll hash out that argument here on air. About Ezekiel Elliott, though, let's start right there. As mentioned in the action update, Zeke eligible. Why am I having trouble with the word eligible this morning? But he is eligible to play in Sunday's season opener, Sunday night against the New York Giants. Even though an arbitrator upheld his 6-game suspension handed down by Roger Goodell stemming from that domestic violence case from over a year ago in July of 2016, a case that police in Columbus, Ohio declined to pursue. Because why? There were too many inconsistencies. And on a numbers game, if you've been an avid listener, you know, and if you've watched at vsin.com, we flash signed affidavits on the screen. We've shown the text messages on screen between the accuser, Tiffany Thompson, who claims to have been Ezekiel Elliott's girlfriend, of her friend, between her and her friend, where she is trying to get her friend to make up a story about Ezekiel Elliott roughing her up and committing this abuse. The signed affidavits, again, by a third party saying this never happened. And also corroboration of testimony that the previous night in a bar fight is where Tiffany Thompson got the bruises on her body. So you know that I have said from the beginning, the NFL shouldn't be suspending Ezekiel Elliott for even one game, let alone 6, because they are doubling down on stupid. Yes, they're PR disasters with Ray Rice and Josh Brown. I won't adjudicate it again, but to then come out and make a case, if you will, of Ezekiel Elliott is the absolute worst precedent in the world to set, because you are in essence then inviting in the future any unscrupulous person, any unscrupulous team from finding someone who will just have an accusation against a rival player on a rival team, and then you're forced to go through this process again. As my U.S. attorney friend has told me on many occasions, Gil, if I tried to prosecute this case, I would be fired on the spot, and yet Roger Goodell wants to dock 6 paychecks from Ezekiel Elliott. It is ridiculous. So yesterday, all of this goes down during fantasy drafts all around the country. So you had an interesting situation where folks didn't know in fantasy drafts, do you gamble and go Ezekiel in the first round? Do you wait and try to get him later? Well, I was in 2 drafts. He was all first round. Actually, he went pick number 8 in one draft, pick number 13, so just out of the first round in another. Anecdotally, I've heard pick 6. I've heard as high as 3rd pick in the draft. So I think folks are getting it. I believe Ezekiel Elliott plays the entire NFL season, because I don't believe there's a way that this judge is not going to grant the injunction and allow for this process to continue. Now, if the judge does not grant the injunction, Ezekiel Elliott's lawyers have stated that if Elliott does not take, if that does not happen, or I should say, if it does happen, if the judge says, look, I'm not granting you the injunction, then Ezekiel Elliott's lawyers have said, we're taking the case further in the legal system, a la Tom Brady, and we will pursue this in federal court if necessary, the same way that Tom Brady pursued the Deflategate matter. Just some random tweets yesterday. Mike Fisher, who covers the Cowboys, courtroom source telling me Judge Mazant grilling the NFL regarding problems of fairness in the Ezekiel Elliott matter. And it goes on and on. Judge, I agree that most of the time the accuser's testimony is not relevant, but here, Kia Roberts, the one person in the NFL office that got to actually interview Ezekiel Elliott, she wasn't allowed in meetings with Goodell. Judge's question to the NFL in the courtroom, doesn't the treatment of Roberts make it fundamentally unfair not to make Goodell an accuser testify? It goes on and on. The NFL with egg on its face again and again. I believe Ezekiel Elliott's going to play the entire season. Yeah, he might ultimately have to serve the suspension next year. That is a possibility. Again, a la Tom Brady and Deflategate. But there is a really good possibility, and I would bet on it, that Ezekiel Elliott plays every single game for the Cowboys this season. And there's the Cowboys schedule at VSiN.com. The Giants are the opener. And again, we'll talk to Vinny Magliulo momentarily about the implications on all of this. How does a sportsbook handle this gray area? Is Ezekiel playing? Is he not playing? And how does that affect? How much exactly does a guy like Ezekiel Elliott move the market? And which markets, if any, does Ezekiel Elliott move? So after the Giants home game, it's a 6-game stretch at Broncos, at Cardinals, versus the Rams, versus the Packers. Then there's a bye week. And then at 49ers and at Washington. So the Redskins creep into that 6-game window. But again, a window that I don't believe will come into play. And then Mitch Moss just sort of floating the idea that this could delay and then Ezekiel Elliott would serve the suspension late in the year. I absolutely don't believe that will happen, because that, even the NFL would put the Cowboys at a competitive disadvantage late in the season. And in that case, they would just delay it to next year anyway to have any suspension served. This is a fascinating case. The NFL botching it step by step, in my opinion, and expect Ezekiel Elliott. Despite what you hear in the mainstream media, it's amazing to hear people say, oh, it's still an uphill battle for Ezekiel Elliott. Eventually, probably is. He'll have to serve that suspension perhaps next year, as I mentioned, but expect him to play all 16 and into the postseason this year. I'm standing by it. The betting implications of this, next with our own Vinny Magliulo on A Numbers Game at VSiN.
This is A Numbers Game with Gil Alexander on Sirius XM 204. It's a numbers game, live from Las Vegas, Nevada, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Now, live from the VSiN studios, it's your host, Gil Alexander.
Week 1 of the NFL kicking off tomorrow night with the Chiefs and the Patriots, and you can get a jump on Week 1 of the NFL with Point Spread Weekly. It is our new digital magazine from the Vegas Stats and Information Network, just in time for football season, and you can expect a whole bunch from Point Spread Weekly. There it is. There's the hardcover right there at VSiN.com. More than 40 pages of key stats and betting trends for college and NFL matchups, exclusive analysis, including 3 sets of power ratings, and the best college and NFL plays of the week from VSiN's on-air experts. All of that in Point Spread Weekly. Sign up now for your free trial at vsin.com/subscribe. Free trial. Cowboys and Giants, Sunday night. Cowboys now a 4-point favorite. Remember, this opened at 5.5, and because of the Ezekiel Elliott news throughout the offseason, it dipped all the way down to 3.5 here at the South Point Hotel Casino, and now ticks back up to 4, -4 with the total at 47.5 consensus, 48 here at the South Point Hotel Casino. And to help us along with the betting implications of the Zeke matter, we bring in our in-house odds maker from Gone Gaming, the great Vincenzo Maliulo, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Vinny.
Good morning, Gil. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I've been talking about this Zeke thing all summer long. Talk to me.
You have.
Yeah, talk to me about, and for those who haven't been with us in another time slot, walk us through the evolution of this market by market as the news came out in every direction on Zeke, if you could.
Yeah. So, Gil, remember this. We put Week 1 up very early. So we put it up last spring. And as you mentioned, at the South Point, Chris Andrews, Jimmy Vaccaro, and myself put up these numbers. The Cowboys were 5.5. There were actually some places that had them higher, as high as 6. Now, this was way before the Ezekiel Elliott situation came to light, and there was money. There was giant money. Giants were taken at 5.5, 5. Game got down to as low as 4. Then the Ezekiel Elliott story broke. We made an adjustment, reposted the game at 3.5. And everybody was kind of taking a wait-and-see approach. Well, now, once it was determined that he is going to play on Sunday night, reposted at 4. So, Gil, this is a situation where you've got a key player, obviously, who impacts the wagering line. Now, it's not a set number, Gil. We had talked early on during the course of the summer, what exactly is Ezekiel Elliott worth to the number? And depending on who you talk to, it was, say 1.5 to 2.5. But the way I look at it, and I know Chris will look at it the same way, it depends on the opponent. I don't just, have one set number, by player. You have a starting point, if you will, just like you have a starting point for a power rating for a team. But it would depend on the opponent and the circumstances and, of course, where the game is. But in this case, right now, reposted with the Cowboys 4-point favorites. We'll probably see Cowboy money here. And, again, don't forget, this game positioned as the Sunday night game will be the highest wagered game of Sunday for sure.
No doubt about it. As Sunday night games so very often are the biggest decision on the board in the NFL for sportsbooks. So that's the Week 1 market, Vinny, and that's sort of mechanical, and we get it. So now he's playing. At least we know that. That's the one thing we know, that Ezekiel Elliott will be able to play Week 1 against the Giants because of the timing. Even the NFL said, yeah, go ahead and play Week 1. Beyond that, it is still a gray area. And so your job behind the desk at a sports book is particularly dicey because you've got a season win totals market, you've got division futures, you've got conference, and of course Super Bowl futures. How do you handle that in this circumstance?
And again, Gil, those great points by you, and this is how they're impacted. And again, there's the money aspect as well, right? And when I say the money aspect, money wagered not just on or not on the Cowboys, but on or not on other teams. So let's start with the NFC East, where the Cowboys opened as favorites for the NFC East back in early July. Back on July 11, the Cowboys were 11-10, and let's go to the second choice, the Giants at 12-5. Well, now we've got a flip of favorites in the division where the Giants are about $1.40 plus 140. Cowboys are 2.5 to 1 now. And again, a lot of that had to do with Giant money. Same thing with the Super Bowl futures, where the Cowboys opened as 8 to 1, and now sit at about 15 to 1. The Giants opened at 18. Money came in on the Giants, and now they sit at around 12 to 1. Remember this: as teams come down, good bookmaking dictates where you've got to raise teams. If you're lowering somebody, you've got to raise somebody else, and typically it should be somebody within that division that gets raised as somebody within the division gets lowered. In terms of regular season wins, Cowboys opened at 9.5, shaded to the over at minus 120, even on the under. And now I think it's anywhere from 9.5 under minus 50, Gil, to where you'll see 9 out there, depending on where you shop.
Very interesting how this is impacting things. Repeat, if I missed it, division odds specifically, because that twisted back and forth. Where are we right now on NFC East division odds with the Giants and Cowboys?
Cowboys 5 to 2, Giants 7 to 5, Eagles at 7 to 2, and the Redskins at 4 to 1. But I could feel the Redskins will probably climb back up to 6 to 1. As you could see, because don't forget, there's a flip of favorites in that Week 1 game where the Eagles and Redskins are playing each other in Washington. Redskins open at 2.5, and now you've got the Eagles favored by consensus of 1.
Yes, Eagles consensus 1-point favorites at Washington at FedEx Field. And Vinny, you mentioned in that there where you were like, well, when you lower one futures odds, you raise another. That, of course, is if you're doing it fairly, Vinny, which is not necessarily the case everywhere. I know you do it fairly like that. We should point that out. There is another bit of NFL news that has to do with the Miami Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hurricane Irma is Category 5, and the NFL decided yesterday to postpone this ball game. Now, there was some doubt as to what the NFL was going to do. Were they going to move it to a neutral site like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh? Were they going to play it earlier in the week? And ultimately, and this is where they leaned early, and this is what they decided to do, because the Dolphins and Bucs both have a bye week in Week 11, Sunday, November 19th, they have decided to just move the game scheduled for Miami. This is a Dolphins home game to that open date for those two teams, Sunday, November 19th. Now, people might say, well, what do you mean, Gil? Why would that matter to a season win total? I do want to point out that since 1990, since the NFL went to this 17-week schedule where every team has a bye in a staggered situation, there have been a total of 8 teams that have had this circumstance where there is no in-season bye caused by different reasons. And here we will have another case of it because of a hurricane. Of those 8 previous teams, only one of those teams ever had a winning record ultimately. So there is something about having a 16-game sprint versus having a rest week in the middle of your season. So this is not a good thing for the Dolphins and Buccaneers, and obviously let that be the worst of the problems that Hurricane Irma causes. Let's get that out front. But as a bookmaker, Vinny, any adjustment on that? Are you just going to wait to see if there's any money adjustment? Do you expect people to perhaps bet unders more prevalently than they otherwise would on these two teams now?
Good question. Let's start with the game, Gil, and obviously the game will be a refund. So any wagers on the Bucs Dolphins this week will be a refund. One of the other follow-up questions to that is, what if someone had a parlay or a teaser that included one of those teams? It would reduce down. So what I mean by that simply is, if it was a 3-teamer, it'll reduce down to a 2-teamer. If it's a 2-teamer, it'll reduce down to a straight wager on the other team. So that game is a refund for this week. In terms of the regular season wins, just a reminder to everybody out there, as teams kick off this week, so tomorrow, regular season wins on the Chiefs-Patriots will come off the board. And on Sunday, as games kick off, those will come off the board as well. The Dolphins opened at 7.5 flat, minus 110 to the over and the under. They were bet under originally, now sitting at 7. Less shaded to the over. The Buccaneers, so the Dolphins were bet under. The Buccaneers, conversely, were bet over. They opened at 8 flat, minus a dime both sides. Now sitting at 8.5, a slight shade to the under there, Gil. So not really an adjustment. I don't think we'll make an adjustment to them. I mean, we're this close. Money's come in already. Obviously, when folks wagered on them, this was not a consideration. But no reason to really adjust. If someone comes in and makes a wager, obviously there'll be, money is the ultimate determining factor in terms of how something gets moved. But I don't see a lot of movement for the regular season wins here. But the game itself for this weekend will be a refund. Of course, as you mentioned, the least of concerns right now. The main thing is hopefully this hurricane will make a right, and everybody will be okay down there.
Yeah, in the scheme of life, certainly the least of the problems, but obviously our beat, and we must cover it. Vinny, before I let you go, we're talking to Vinny Malauulu, in-house odds maker at Gone Gaming, and our friend who I never get to see in studio anymore because of the new hours. I miss you, Vinny.
Well, buddy, I will make it a point to come down and see you in live one of these mornings. How's that, buddy?
Thank you for slumming in the morning. I appreciate that. What do you expect your biggest decision to be this weekend? Perhaps it is the Giants-Cowboys game that we just mentioned. And what's been the biggest line move in any of these Week 1 games?
Good question, Gil. Some of the biggest line moves, the Raiders-Titans, which will be probably the highest wagered game of the 9 early games. That game opened pick'em again last spring. Got Raiders. Initial money came in on the Raiders, not unexpected here in Las Vegas. Raiders were 1, but now we see the Titans as 2-point favorites. The Eagles and Redskins have become a big decision. Redskins opened 2.5 in that game, and now you see the Eagles as 1-point favorites. Jaguars and Texans, pretty good two-way action. Initially, money came in at +5 and 5.5 and 5 on the Jaguars. Got as low as 4. Now Texans back up to 5. I think there's some sentimental money there. Looks like this Jet game is going to be a pretty good decision. The Jets are up. The Bills are up to 9. They opened 6. The thing to remember here, Gil, is that these games will be the highest regular season games of the season because of the fact they've been up. By the time they kick off, we'll have had them up for about 5 months. So I do want to mention one college note, Gil. There's a couple of games that have been impacted as well by the weather.
Please.
Miami of Florida, Arkansas State. That game has been canceled, and that's a refund as well. There's no makeup date there. However, the Memphis Central Florida game, originally scheduled for 5 o'clock on Saturday, is now being played on Friday. That's a refund, and it'll be reset up with new betting numbers as well. And the general consensus is Central Florida is anywhere from a 1.5 to 2.5 point favorite, depending on where you go.
And FSU, the Seminoles, they've moved their kickoff time for Saturday's game versus Louisiana Monroe from 7 Eastern to noon Eastern. They're trying to make it real early in the morning to get it out of the way, so to speak, in that ball game between FSU.
But that game hasn't moved yet. That still Florida State 32, Gil. No date change. Time change, though, won't necessitate a refund or a reestablishment of the betting numbers.
Got it. And Cowboys-Giants will be the biggest decision, no question, Sunday night?
Oh, no question, Gil. You know what? That's a great point, Gil, because it's positioned as to get everything going, starting with the Chiefs-Patriots. Everything, whether it's just straight bets, but parlays and teasers will be carried to the Giants-Cowboys game. A great betting game, and so far, I think it'll be a pretty good two-way betting game once we get especially further into the weekend.
I think so too. It is public better. Let's call it casual better 101, though. That Sunday night game is always a chase game, so to speak, if folks are down. And yes, as Vinny points out, parlays, teasers, so much tied in to that Sunday night game.
I call it the G game. The G stands for either get out if you had a rough day, or gravy if you had a good one.
That's right. And the better the matchup, the more that is the case. And the Giants and Cowboys, certainly a good Sunday night opener. It seems like the Giants and Cowboys always play on a Sunday night opener, by the way. That has happened many times before. Vinny, we appreciate it. Vinny Malauulu from Gone Gaming and here at the South Point. Thank you for getting up early, my man. Appreciate it.
Always good to be with you, Gil.
My man. Vinny Malauulu, who will be here later in the day in studio at the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Coming back with Jason Weingarten at Spreadopedia to talk baseball. Jason and I, off air, we argue a lot about sports-related matters, gambling-related matters, and otherwise. we had a bit of a disagreement about the Dodgers. There is no closer watcher and observer of the LA Dodgers than Jason. Going to talk to him about this Dodgers slide and also about the Diamondbacks just streaking. All of that with Jason next on A Numbers Game at VSiN.
This is A Numbers Game with Gil Alexander on Sirius XM 204. It's A Numbers Game, live from Las Vegas, Nevada, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Now, live from the VSiN studios, it's your host, Gil Alexander.
Had my 2 fantasy football drafts yesterday. I know you are in fantasy football mode as well. But listen up. If you love fantasy football like I know you do, then you need to be playing on Draft. This is something different. No salary caps. Playing a real live snake draft, just like you play with your friends in a season-long league. But in this one, you're done in under 5 minutes. They're drafts that last for just 1 week, and there's no management. Just set it, forget it, and once you're done drafting, that is it. No trades, no waivers. It's called a draft. Even takes care of last-minute injuries for you, and drafts start every couple minutes, so you can even join one right this second. And, of course, it's for cold, hard cash. Straight cash, homie. Drafts start from just $1, so there's a draft for everyone. For a limited time only, all new players get a free entry into a real money draft when you make your first deposit, but you have to use the promo code RADIO. Play a real money game for free just by using the promo code RADIO. Just search draft in your app store or go to playdraft.com and come play free right now with promo code radio. Void where prohibited. Must be 18 years of age or older. On the phone right now, I usually introduce him and just say, here's Jason Weingarten at Spreadopedia, and we'll talk about baseball. But as we're waiting for Jason to get on the air, for some reason it was piped into my ear like another conversation Jason was having off air. And Jason, as his wont, is complaining about some sports book that has wronged him. Jason, would you like to describe this to us?
What sports book wronged me? What are we talking about?
We heard you complaining in the background about something.
Oh,
don't act like you weren't, Jason.
I wasn't complaining about a book. I was complaining about getting my girlfriend's hair done, I think.
Oh, was that it? Oh, I completely misunderstood. My bad, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Jason, you and I get in a little. We're not always in agreement on things in life. And sometimes in baseball, we're not always in agreement on things. And the Dodgers are an interesting point of discussion that you and I have had now. The Dodgers, of course, in a stupid little slide here, where they have lost, is it 10 out of their last 11 now? The LA Dodgers, let me make sure that is correct. It's certainly 9 out of their last 10. I just want to be for accuracy's sake. They have lost, yes, 10 out of their last 11 now, which is just out of control for a team that is over 50 games, above 500. And that now is, that's not the case anymore. Now they're a mere 46 games above 500. But, they've been within a 9-iron of their going over on their season win total now for the better part of 2 weeks. Still haven't gotten there. And I guess my question to you, as the Diamondbacks concurrently are on a 12-game winning streak, many of those wins in the 12-game winning streak against these very Dodgers, what gives here? You said the Dodgers, to me, you said they're the best team in baseball still by far. I don't see it that way. Do you think they can, does it worry you just a little, though, they won't be able to flip on a switch here come postseason?
Yes, the flipping on the switch part actually does worry me, because winning isn't something that you could just decide to do and flip a switch and start winning. If you're going to have a bad September, it's more likely than not going to carry over to the playoffs and impact the way you play. The Dodgers they're not playing very good right now. It's as simple as that. They're not hitting, they're not pitching, their relief pitchers aren't getting the job done. Everything that was going right for them for the first couple months of the season has been going wrong for the last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, it's only 2 weeks, and they're still, 40 games over 500 or whatever ridiculous number it is. But they should start, seriously thinking about stopping the lineup shuffle and starting to put the guys in that they think are going to be on the roster come playoff time, because those guys need to start getting innings. They need to start figuring stuff out. And at this point, just thinking that Alex Wood and Rich Hill and Kershaw and Darvish are all going to buckle down and be healthy and just pitch lights out in the playoffs is not necessarily unrealistic, but you can't just write the Dodgers in pen to have a bye into the World Series, which is the way we've essentially been talking about them all season, myself included.
We have this prop up at the South Point. We're talking to Jason Weingarten at Spreadopedia, professional baseball bettor. We have a prop up, Dodgers in Houston versus the Field, which we put up about a month ago here at the South Point. And right now the Field at minus 145 against the Dodgers in Houston, plus 125 coming back to win the World Series. I'm curious if you would take a stand on that particular prop or if you would just pass on it. And then the follow-up question to the Dodgers thing is also the notion that the very team that they may have to face in the playoffs is the one that's been killing them, the Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks win again, albeit in extra innings last night against the Dodgers. Does that specifically also put an extra sort of supersize on why the Dodgers ought to try to correct things real quick? It's that the Diamondbacks have stared them in the face and done this.
Yes and no. I mean, there's still about a 40% chance that the Diamondbacks don't even make the NLDS. I mean, they're going to be in a one-game playoff versus most likely the Rockies or the Brewers, and there's no guarantee they win that game. I would probably make them a favorite, especially if they have home field advantage. But, baseball, when you get a one-game series, There's no guarantees in anything. Sure. But to go to the second question before I go back to the Diamondbacks, or the first question about the prop, I would not back either side of that prop, just because, like I said before, I'm not really into the synthetic sort of bets where you're getting, two teams versus the field. If I wanted the Dodgers right now, if I thought somebody was down on the Dodgers, I would buy Dodgers futures. If I was interested in buying Astros futures, I would buy them, separately. And if I wanted the Nationals or the Yankees or the Red Sox or whoever I thought was a contender, I would buy that individually as well. And, pick my teams to take a stand on, essentially.
Jason, you said to me off air about the Dodgers, though. You still think they are not only the best team in baseball, but you use the phrase by far, and it's not even close. Quantify that for me, if you would, in a certain way.
Their pitching depth is, assuming average to above average health in the playoffs is far beyond most of the other teams. Their depth on offense, again, assuming above average health, is deeper than other teams. The amount of lineup combinations they can throw at you, the defensive substitutions they can throw at you, their pitch framing, their strengths are essentially everything. I mean, maybe you make a case that they're not the best base running team. They don't steal the most bases or whatever, which is true. They don't need to. But overall, they are, metrically one of the best teams. They put the balls in the air. They do everything that the advanced analytics guys would want a team to do.
What was it that you wanted to say about the Diamondbacks specifically?
When you start drilling down on the construction of that team and the outfield defense and the pitching staff with Zach Greinke and Robbie Ray, the way Ray's been pitching, they lost a little bit with the pitch framing downgrade with Jeff Mathis getting hurt. But the way that team's constructed, Fernando Rodney gets a bad rap for being Fernando Rodney, but metrics-wise, he's still a pretty competent closer. Archie Bradley is an excellent setup man. He made the All-Star team this year. David Hernandez isn't bad. That bullpen is not as bad as anybody else's. It's a good team all around. They've beaten the Dodgers 5 times in a row. And, if you've watched the last couple games, Pedro Baez, Brandon Morrow, those are the guys that the Dodgers are relying on to get them through the 7th and 8th inning. And those guys aren't pitching very well on high leverage, and the Dodgers front office is aware of that, and they have a month to come up with some solutions before this is an incredibly disappointing season for them.
That would be the understatement of the year. Dodgers have 24 more ball games to play in the regular season. Diamondbacks have 23 more, as the Diamondbacks now have put much distance between themselves and the Rockies, Brewers, and Cardinals for that number 2, or for the first wild card position, I should say. The Rockies, Brewers, and Cardinals. We always said the Rockies have too much runway not to perhaps mess this up, and the Rockies may be trying to mess this up. But right now, they're the number 2 wild card team as well. Diamondbacks have already gone over their season win total of 78. And shout out to Matt Lindeman, who was on the show before the season. He was the one guy that was very bullish on the Diamondbacks. So shout out to Matt on that. Jason, appreciate it as always. We look forward to more talks here through the rest of September and into the postseason. This is when it gets fun. Thank you, man.
Yep, and the Dodgers' schedule is about to get harder. They're going on the road to play the Nationals next week. They got 4 games with the Rockies coming to town. It's no one's just going to roll over and give them the division. It's 12-game lead with 25 to play is a lot, but it's going to get down to single digits pretty soon.
11.5-game lead. Wouldn't that be something? All this time we thought the Astros might be the team whose sphincter would tighten, if you will, towards the end of the season. And who knows, maybe it's the LA Dodgers. They have 46 games over 500. Before I let you go, though, the big story in baseball yesterday, and I put big in quotes because for those of us who bet baseball, we could not care less about this, really. But the sign stealing thing with the Red Sox and the Yankees accusing the Red Sox of using Apple Watches to steal signs, and the Red Sox basically copying to it and saying, yeah, we did it. You got us. Matter to you at all?
No, not really. I mean, just my own anecdotal evidence. I've caught the Yankees cheating a bunch of times, and I know what guys put stuff on their hats and all sorts of stuff. It's just part of the game. I expect pitchers to doctor the ball. If they're not, they're probably not going to have a long career.
Yep. And I always talk about the hypocrisy for all those people who hate Barry Bonds. None of them hate Gaylord Perry for spitting on a baseball and winning 300 games. It is whatever your bias is. Jason, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I'll talk to you later. See you, Gil.
All right, take care. Jason Weingarten at Spreadopedia, always a great follow on Twitter. Coming up, by the way, we do have baseball picks. 13-4 last week in baseball for almost 9 units to the positive. We went 1-1 yesterday, but a tick up because they were both dogs and the Diamondbacks came through for us. The Twins lost by a run. So just sort of a middling kind of week through the first 2 games. We'll have 3 baseball picks later on in the show. Also got to get to Mike Sando to talk NFL matters. Mike Sando, advanced stats in the NFL, talking all kinds of things. Teams tanking now in the NFL. Is tanking a thing? And the quarterbacks that are most on the hot seat entering week 1. We'll get to Mike Sando and Jay Cornegay from the Westgate as well on the show. Next, though, Ben Fawkes has, my buddy over at ESPN, he has decided to ask bookmakers all over town about this hypothetical matchup between this year's Patriots of the 12.5 season win total and the famous 2007 Patriots, who came within 1 game of having the perfect season of 19-0 but lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl. What would the line be between that 2007 Patriots team versus this year's upcoming Patriots version in 2017? A hypothetical game line. We'll get into all the answers next on A Numbers Game at VSiN.
This is A Numbers Game with Gil Alexander on Sirius XM 204. It's A Numbers Game, live from Las Vegas, Nevada, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Now, live from the VSiN studios, it's your host, Gil Alexander.
College football already here, the NFL about to be here in a big way, and what does VSiN do in response to that? More betting programming. It's how we roll. It's what we do. Beginning, of course, each and every weekday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, with Follow the Money, Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard, 3 hours of Mitch and Paulie. And then it's a numbers game with me, Gil Alexander. Hey, that's me. 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern for a numbers game. That is followed by a replay of Mitch and Paulie. In case you missed them early in the morning, we will rerun Follow the Money at 9 a.m. Pacific or lunchtime, East Coast. Then it's our new show, The Edge. That gets started at 3 Eastern and 12 noon Pacific with Matt Humans and Jonathan Von Tobel. And then in their usual time, My Guys in the Desert, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. That, of course, with the great Brent Musburger, along with his cast of odds makers and professional bettors, including Ron Flatter, the Flatter Man, and Vinny Maliulo, who was kind enough to come on the show earlier. Vinny was great earlier on the show, talking about the implications of the Ezekiel Elliott matter. And again, for those who missed it, I am in complete belief that Ezekiel Elliott will play each and every game this season, of course, barring injury. That's a different story. But I believe there will be a stay of execution, if you will, and that he will be granted the injunction on Friday, and that this will go on and on like a Deflategate kind of trajectory, and that Ezekiel Elliott will play all season. Time will tell. Decision on that matter coming on Friday. But we've got you covered all day long right here at VSiN, Sirius XM channel 204, vsin.com, beginning 7 Eastern each and every weekday morning. Now, the 2007 New England Patriots. My friend Aaron Schatz, who is the creator of Football Outsiders, the pioneer in football advanced analytics, he does a thing where not only does he analyze the current season week after week, and Aaron will be a recurring guest on a numbers game throughout the season, already has been, and he goes, one of the other things he does, though, is he goes back season by season in time, and he's gotten all the way back to the late 80s now, where he has analyzed on a play-by-play basis, play-by-play, game-by-game basis, through his advanced analytics, and he comes up with who are some of the worst teams of all time, and of course, conversely, who are some of the best teams of all time in that window that he's already analyzed. So all the way back to about, I think he's at 1987 now, the 2007 New England Patriots are his second best team in that window of years. The best team, you ask? I thought you'd never ask. The 1991 Washington Redskins, Super Bowl champions, Mark Rippon at the helm. I just want to throw that in as an aside. But what this discussion is about is Ben Fawkes over at ESPN Chalk decided to go around asking about the 2007 Patriots versus this year's version of the New England Patriots, 2017 Patriots, who, of course, have the highest season win total in the National Football League in betting markets at 12.5. And he asked 7 different bookmakers across town who they would favor in a hypothetical game between the 2007 Patriots and the 2017 version of the Pats. Now, let me just preface this up in advance. This kind of thing gets asked periodically. Sometimes we ask, what would Alabama be lined against the Cleveland Browns? It's a hypothetical exercise that ultimately means nothing because we'll never find out. But it is curious is interesting to listen to what some people have to say. So of the 7 bookmakers that were asked by Ben Fawkes over at ESPN, and you can see the article at ESPN.com, 6 of the 7 had the 2007 Patriots favored with lines ranging from a small favorite over at Will Hill to 11 points. Frank Kunovich over at Caesars had the 2007 Patriots favored by 11 points over the 2017 Patriots, who, it should be noted, we haven't seen play one single down. We should probably point that out. The one dissenter, Aaron Kessler, by the way, over at Golden Nugget, he liked the Patriots from 2007 as a 5.5-point favorite, just to throw in somebody else in the mix there. Jason Simbel, Vice President of Risk Management over at CG Technology, he had the 2007 Patriots by 3.5, just to give you some examples of that. But the one dissenter, the Westgate, Las Vegas Superbook, who had listed this year's team as plus 275 to win the Super Bowl. They're the one sportsbook that said it would favor this year's version in a hypothetical game between the 2017 Patriots and the 2007 Patriots by 3.5 points. And here was Jeff Sherman's reasoning, oddsmaker over at the Westgate, who's a frequent guest here at the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Quote, we've never had a win total of 12.5. The NFL game has advanced in the last 10 years to the point where this 2017 Patriots team would have the highest power rating versus any previous team, unquote. So I like that Jeff did it mechanically by the numbers. Yes, Jorge?
Would you like my opinion?
Please. Jorge Mondaca, ladies and gentlemen, my producer, would like to chime in on this. What do you got?
I favor the 2007 New York Giants by David Tyree catch.
Are you a Giants fan, Jorge, by any chance?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought that was happening. Well, I guess if I can throw in a Redskin reference, you can do that with the Giants. Yes, David Tyree. Only eclipsed by the catch in last year's Super Bowl by the Patriots, which was just out of control. Julian Edelman.
That doesn't count. That was against Atlanta. That's different.
BetLab Sports, who does such great work, and we frequently reference here at VSiN. Since the 2003 season, by the way, to put this into some context, they say that there have been 5 NFL games with point spreads of 20 or higher. The 2007 Patriots were responsible for 3 of those games in which the point spread was 20 points or higher. So just to give you an indication of what this hypothetical game that's being played is all about, the 2007 Patriots, a juggernaut, and yes, again, according to Football Outsiders, the greatest offense since way back in 1987. That's the furthest back they've gotten in the team-by-team analysis. It gets tough, by the way, for an outfit like Football Outsiders to actually get play-by-play footage when you go that far back in time. That's their struggle. 2007 Patriots, best offense in that time period, but second best overall team to the 1991 Washington Redskins. Of course, it would be interesting to see if the Football Outsiders exercise gets back to 1985 to see if the Bears of 1985 would eclipse the 1991 Redskins in that study just based on their defense alone. Schatz does such great work over there, Football Outsiders. But that's the story with the exercise conducted by Ben Fawkes over at ESPN between the 2017 and 2007 Patriots. One other matter. I mentioned this Ray Lewis matter, which has just been fascinating in the NFL. For those who were mesmerized by the fact that I met Tupac earlier in the week and Chubb Rock over on Howard University's campus, you may also be mesmerized by the fact that I happen to know Colin Kaepernick's girlfriend, Nessa Diab, pretty well. This is an amazing story. Ray Lewis saying that the Baltimore Ravens chose not to sign Colin Kaepernick after the QB's girlfriend posted a racist tweet featuring the former All-Pro linebacker and owner Stephen Biscotti. Quote, "We were going to close the deal to sign him," Lewis said on Showtime's Inside the NFL last night. Steve Biscotti said, "I want to hear Colin Kaepernick speak to let me know what he wants to play, that he wants to play football, and it never happens because that picture comes up the next day." It was an August 2nd tweet by my one-time friend Nessa Diab. She compared a picture of Lewis hugging Biscotti to a scene from Django Unchained, where Samuel L. Jackson's loyal house slave held Leonardo DiCaprio's cruel plantation owner. So Ray Lewis goes on to say his girl, Kaepernick's girlfriend, Nessa, goes out and put out this racist gesture and doesn't know we're in the back office about to try to get this guy signed. Steve Biscotti has said it himself. How can you crucify Ray Lewis when Ray Lewis is the one calling for Colin Kaepernick? And then Lewis was asked whether the Ravens would have signed Kaepernick if not for the tweet. And Lewis said, quote, "Then he's flying him to Baltimore. I'm sitting with all 3 of them, and we're all having a conversation about bringing Colin Kaepernick in." Of course, Kaepernick drew national attention last season when he knelt during the national anthem before games as a protest of social injustice, which he said, he's on the record as saying, he will no longer do in 2017. But pretty amazing story about a tweet perhaps causing Colin Kaepernick to not be in an NFL uniform. A tweet from his girl, Nessa Diab, who I used to hang out with all the time, by the way, Jorge. And if I text her now, she won't even return the text because she's a big star on MTV. That's how she rolls. Coming back with Jay Cornegay. And next, Mike Sando on A Numbers Game at VSiN.
This is A Numbers Game with Gil Alexander on Sirius XM 204.
VSiN Action Update.
The National Football League has officially postponed Sunday's Tampa Bay Buccaneers-Miami Dolphins game due to the threat of Hurricane Irma. The game will be played in Miami Week 11, a previously open bye week for both teams on Tuesday. The NFL had started contingency planning. Irma upgraded to a Category 5 storm and has kept its strength. Dallas Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott is eligible to play in Sunday's season opener against the New York Giants, even though an arbitrator upheld Elliott's 6-game suspension handed down by Commissioner Roger Goodell that stems from a domestic violence case. Judge Amos Mazant said he will make a decision on Elliott's temporary restraining order by 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday. If that TRO is not granted, and Elliott does not take the case further in the legal system, then the first game Elliott would be eligible to play would be November 5th against the Kansas City Chiefs. Elliott's attorney said they intend to take his case to the federal level if necessary. And some news on that Tom Brady concussion matter that no one's been really even caring about. In case you were wondering, Tom Brady concussion probe is complete. NFL and NFLPA found no wrongdoing and no signs Brady had a concussion at all. This is your VSiN Action Update.
Coming to you live from the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is a numbers game with Gil Alexander.
He's one of those idiots who believe in analytics.
On Sirius XM Channel 204.
If you're not a genius, don't bother, all right?
Taking the sabermetric approach and focusing on the statistics and variables that come into play. Now, here's Gil Alexander.
Hour number 2 of a numbers game here at VSiN, the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Gil Alexander. A numbers game coming up. Jake Kornegay from the Westgate Superbook. But right now, one of my favorites, an advanced NFL stats guru, a guy I love talking to, and a guy who apparently I've made a time zone fail with. But he's been kind enough to overcome my time zone issues. Mike Sando. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Hey, it's my issue. I'm the one who's on the West Coast. I think the whole world's on the East Coast, right?
Well, you know what? I didn't assume you were on the West Coast. My apologies.
No problem.
But kind enough kind of you to come on anyway. And Mike, listen, I'm going to talk to you about your 2 latest pieces at ESPN.com about a couple NFL matters. But obviously, this Ezekiel Elliott matter is first and foremost. And I just want to get your thoughts. My opinion, and I've ranted about this all summer because I just think the NFL is doubling down on stupid here. I think they're botching this. I understand they had PR nightmares with Ray Rice and Josh Brown, and I just think they have handled this horribly. I don't think Ezekiel Elliott should be suspended even 1 game, let alone 6, based on so much of the inconsistent evidence. Yet, here we are, and we don't know yet. We do know he's going to play in Week 1 against the Giants, Ezekiel Elliott. We don't know anything beyond that quite yet. Where do you fall on this matter?
Yeah, I just think that, the league in every one of these suspensions or disciplines, whether it's at the team level with the Saints, the Patriots, the player level with Brady, and now, you have Elliott, it just seems like a confusing mess that's never handled in a logical way. And in the end, I haven't studied the case or seen the evidence or know what suspension he deserved or doesn't deserve. It just, to me, it became almost comical when they said the suspension's upheld, but he's playing. That's to me, to the person who's just a fan of the game, and you're like, what? Your suspension was upheld, and you're playing. Okay, makes sense.
Once it goes to the legal system, Mike, all bets are off. Then it is something that casual fans just sort of lose interest in. They're like, all right, whatever, is he playing? More importantly, they're like, where do I draft him tonight in my fantasy draft? That's all I want to know. You wrote this great piece, Mike, as you so often do, and every time really do at ESPN. This one that you wrote was about the many reasons, the multiple reasons for the NFL's trade explosion. And you point out that since August 1st, we've had 30 trades. And this is not something we're used to in the National Football League. And you list multiple reasons for why this has happened. And I think the most fascinating of them is your very first one, which is something that we've come to know and expect perhaps in the NBA, but not so much in the NFL. And this applies to bettors who are betting futures and season win totals as well. And that's tanking. Tanking, is that a thing in the NFL? Explain, sir.
Yeah, well, the Jets are doing that. I mean, I think everyone would acknowledge that the Jets are a much less talented team in the short term than they were. When you get rid of Sheldon Richardson, one of your better, more talented players, it's only because you don't think you're really a contender this year. He's going to make $8 million. You're probably not going to necessarily re-sign him. So you're just cutting bait. You're not doing everything you possibly can to be as good as you can be this year. And we've seen Cleveland do that too. I mean, that's why, when the schedules come out in May or April and we get our first look at the point spreads, we see things like the Browns last year are an underdog in every game. Every game they play, they're an underdog the whole season.
Yeah.
And this year they probably would be too, except they play the Jets. These are teams that are charging full money for people to come see the games, and they're not trying to win right now. Now, they may say, hey, we're taking a long-term approach, a plan here, and maybe you buy that. But I think, in the past, I think an exec put it really well to me. In the past, trades were driven by the GM who's on the hot seat and really needs to, get another win or two this year to try to save his job. But in the end has a hard time making that deal because other people don't want to make a move. They don't want to give up a pick, or they're not comfortable meeting the terms. Now you have teams making moves that don't necessarily make them any better right now, and may not make them better ever, because, like in the case of Cleveland, they had 14 draft picks a year ago in 2016. And they're going to be lucky if 2 of those guys are good players.
Man.
So, that's one element of it. I don't think that's why we have 30 trades. I mean, I think if you put the trades into categories, you see, okay, I would say the Sheldon Richardson trade is that type of trade. Okay. But there's a bunch of other trades that are, this guy traded for a conditional 7th, a conditional 7th, a 7th round pick next year. Those, I think, are a little bit more having to do with a willingness of younger GMs to make deals, but also they got rid of the 75-man cut down. So I think there's a little bit more time to weigh trades that could help you get around the waiver system.
And the fact you point out as well that just in general, teams are not valuing draft picks as much. And I think that makes certain people's heads explode when they hear that, because that's a new sort of approach or a new way of thinking. As you point out, an era now in which limited practice opportunities work against player development. And so if that's the case, there is a case to be made for adding more proven NFL talent. So all of that, a confluence of events, a great piece from Mike Sando over at ESPN, the multiple reasons for the NFL's trade explosion. And of course, the other piece that you had recently is about the quarterbacks that are already on the hot seat week 1. Give me the 2 or 3 that you're most interested in watching.
I think there's a sense of inevitability with. I mean, look, we know that Mike Glennon is not going to be the long-term guy, right? So to me, that's not drama. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. I'm really interested in Denver with Trevor Siemian, and because John Elway has championship win-it-all expectations, and I think Trevor Siemian's a nice young player, but he's a win with, not a win because of quarterback, right? I mean, and so. With those expectations where you're firing coaches or changing staffs all the time, and guys like Wade Phillips get pushed out who know what they're doing and have long track records because they haven't gotten over the championship bar, every single season. That's really interesting. What happens if just Siemian is slow out of the gates? I don't really feel like they have someone else who's ready to go in, but. That's, to me, Denver's just interesting to me.
Broncos 3.5-point favorites in the second of 2 Monday night games. You may recall that there are 2 Monday night games, week 1 in the NFL. Chargers at Broncos, the Chargers 3.5 dogs at the Trevor Siemian-led Denver Broncos, who now have Brock Osweiler as their backup. Let you go with this, talking to Mike Sando at ESPN. Mike, the game or games, then, that you are most excited about on the week 1 slate? What are you looking at?
Yeah, there's a couple. You mentioned the Denver-San Diego one. It's interesting to me because Denver's interesting, Simeon's interesting, San Diego has a pass rush. That is interesting. I will be at Seahawks at Green Bay this week, and to me, that's just a great game of the week because Seattle has not won there since 1999. I was a second-year Seahawks beat reporter at the time. I was there at Lambeau Field. Cortez Kennedy had 3 sacks in that game. That's the last time Seattle won at Lambeau. Can you believe that? And they've played there a bunch.
That's incredible.
And Russell Wilson in his career has 8 touchdowns and 10 picks against Green Bay. he's had like a 5-pick game. I think that they lost a 4-pick game that they somehow won. Those are uncharacteristic Wilson type games. So, home field in the playoffs can be decided by this type of a game early in the year. If Seattle and Green Bay both finish 10, 11, 12 wins or something, fascinating game.
And to your point, definitely the marquee matchup, I think, on the slate this weekend. Seattle at Green Bay, one of the 3 afternoon games on Sunday, if you will. Afternoon, 1 o'clock, that is start time on the West Coast, 4 p.m., 4:25 to be exact, on the East Coast. And as I look down, the one that I'm sort of looking at beyond that, I think Oakland at Tennessee is interesting to me, Mike. Oakland, a team that is sort of the lame duck in Oakland, but this one's on the road. I wonder if they'll find some solace being on the road this year, the Raiders, and perhaps next year as well. And Tennessee, a team that, as many people you talk to, you find as many different opinions on a team with Marcus Mariota in a season where a lot's going to be determined, I think, about young Mariota, and a Tennessee team that has a great offensive line and has a lot of potential. And this line, by the way, for those scoring at home, Oakland opened as a 1.5-point favorite, and now the Titans are a 2-point favorite here just a few days before game time. Good one for you as well?
It really is. And, I think there's been a ton of excitement over both of these teams, both of their young quarterbacks, especially Carr. There's been a ton of excitement. But I've been a little bit worried on Tennessee's behalf because I'm worried about Mariota's health. It just feels like he's an injury away from being injury prone to me. And I think they're expecting that, hey, we finished 9-7 last year. That's where we start. So, how many games above that are we going to be? It doesn't always work that way when you're a team, a newly established team trying to get going. And so I think they have a good chance at home against Oakland. Their running game plays at probably a Raider weakness, which is their defense and the middle of their defense. So I think it's a game that Tennessee, if they win, has to win it their way, probably. It's probably control the line of scrimmage, run the ball, and play on their terms. I think that if Derek Carr is hot and, turns it into a higher scoring affair, it seems like Oakland could be a little bit more ready to win that type of game. And we saw Oakland last year went 5-0 in games decided by 3 points or less. That's unusual. It's probably not sustainable, but they did show an ability to kind of pull them out, and I don't know if that's the style necessarily that, Tennessee doesn't want to play a freewheeling style where you're in a shootout late in the game.
Mike, it's such a weird, Marcus Mariota versus Derek Carr. It just sort of jogs in my mind. 2 young quarterbacks trying to fill a vacuum in what is a weird time period now in the NFL where the great quarterbacks, the handful of great quarterbacks, are just getting older and older with no one filling the vacuum. Tom Brady, 40 years old. Drew Brees is going to be 39 in January. Big Ben, already 35 and already contemplating retirement, as we found out in the offseason. Phillip Rivers is going to be 36 in December. Aaron Rodgers is going to be 34 in December. I don't think we really think of Aaron Rodgers that way. It is just a weird point in history where nobody's filling the vacuum. I guess we could say Russell Wilson is the one player in his 20s who has sort of established himself, but of those young quarterbacks, we'll see who emerges. Who would your money be on of the young ones?
Well, I'm intrigued about. I love just about everything about Jameis Winston, but don't think he necessarily protects the ball well enough. I think Carson Wentz is really intriguing. People are very high on him in the league. Think he can rise to that level over time. We'll see. I'm more. To me, the glass is half full. I'm excited. I think there's enough young guys between Wentz, Dak Prescott. You mentioned Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston. There's a handful, 6 or 7 guys that I think a couple of them probably will ascend, have those types of careers. I don't think they're going to necessarily be, Tom Brady's probably the first guy like that since Joe Montana. You know what I mean? To have that, all the championships and everything, and just seem to be perfect almost. That's once in a generation. There's not going to be that guy. Peyton Manning was unique. Brett Favre, to some degree, was unique for being able to play that long. But I think there are enough promising young guys that there will be some good guys at the top, even if they aren't necessarily Tom Brady, who's, maybe one of 2 or 3 guys ever.
Absolutely. As we look forward to a week 1 in the NFL season with some great quarterback matchups, Mike. McCown versus Peterman. No, now it's actually Tyrod Taylor. I take that back. Bortles versus Savage and Tolzien versus Goff. Catch the fever.
Oh yeah.
So bad.
Here's the deal though. Go pull up NFL game books from the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, these games have always existed.
Same thing.
But I mean, it's just we think back to that era and think that it was Elway against Marino every week. Not really. Aaron Rodgers, I think, has started one game against Tom Brady, right? I mean, it's just, there's bad quarterbacking going on in the league forever.
Well, Mike, speak for yourself. I loved watching Lynn Dickey play football for the Green Bay Packers.
He was actually better than that.
Yeah, no, he was. You're right. I'm killing Lynn Dickey. He was the first guy that leapt to mind for me. Mike Sando from ESPN. Always great stuff, and we'll try to have you back on periodically through the year, and I'll get the time zones right, my friend.
Great. Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Mike Sando from ESPN, one of the best in the biz. Hopefully he can come back on the show throughout the season as well. Week 1 slate. Cannot wait. And remember, tomorrow, our roundtable with Warren Sharp, Bill Krackenberger, the crack man in studio with me bright and early, and Evan Silva breaking down game by game on the Week 1 NFL slate. Coming back, we have not talked about the U.S. Open, and shame on me for not having done so. This is the greatest television viewing throughout the day. Hope you've been watching both the men's and ladies' side. My ladies' pick, Madison Keys, still very much in play to win it all. She's in action. We will talk a little tennis next on A Numbers Game at VSiN.
This is A Numbers Game with Gil Alexander on Sirius XM 204. It's a numbers game, live from Las Vegas, Nevada, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Now, live from the VSiN studios, it's your host, Gil Alexander.
You know, I do a podcast, Jorge, not sure if you're familiar with it, a podcast called Beating the Book, wildly popular. And I will say to people that if I do the greatest baseball episode ever in history, there's a ceiling of listeners. But if I just whisper the word football, thousands of people come filing in. And it is week 1 in the NFL, and a great accoutrement, a great thing to have. That's French, by the way, Jorge, if you're wondering. Renaissance languages. A great thing to have for the NFL season and college football as well is our Point Spread Weekly, something you can have in your hand while you listen to VSiN, while you listen to podcasts. It's a new digital magazine from VSiN, just in time for football season. More than 40 pages of key stats and betting trends for college and NFL matchups, exclusive analysis including 3 sets of power ratings, the best college and NFL plays of the week from VSiN's on-air experts, all of that in Point Spread Weekly, and you can sign up now for free. Don't cost you nothing. Free trial at vsin.com/subscribe. We love football. I remember when I was a kid in D.C., they used to, they would still call baseball the national pastime. And growing up in D.C., I didn't understand what that was. I was like, why? National pastime? What? Because all we did was play basketball and watch the Redskins. So this whole notion, we were not a baseball town at the time.
I've lived here in the U.S. since 1990. When was baseball the national pastime?
The year was 1945, Jorge. Let me tell you about those days. No, yeah, it was before even I was born, dude. It was like, we love football, Football America, and we will talk nothing but football coming up with Jay Kornegay from the Westgate, the czar, the emperor of the Las Vegas Superbook over there at the Westgate. Jay, kind enough to join us. I do want to mention tennis because this U.S. Open has been spectacular, both on the men's and ladies' side. Yesterday in action at Flushing Meadows, men's quarterfinals got underway, and Pablo Carreno Busta won as a favorite, the number 12 seed over Diego Schwartzman, 5'7" leaflet possibility Diego Schwartzman. He lost in straight sets. Leaflet possibility, ladies and gentlemen, if you know what I mean. And then in the other quarterfinal yesterday, Sam Querrey, the lone remaining American, losing in 4 sets, 3 of which were tiebreakers. Kevin Anderson, a 6'8" South African, advances to the semis. Women's side of things, here's the dream. 4 different American ladies in the 4 different quarterfinal brackets. So the dream here is to have 4 Americans into the semis of the U.S. Open, and 2 of them have already advanced. Sloane Stephens did it in 3 sets yesterday against Anastasia Sevastova in a remarkable comeback for Sloane Stephens in the final set. She did it the same way kind of that Madison Keys got to the quarters the night before with a great 3rd set comeback. So good for Sloane Stephens to get there as a -155 favorite in that matchup with Sevastova yesterday. And then Venus Williams. Venus is unbelievable. The 37-year-old Venus Williams, the number 9 seed in this tournament, she took down Petra Kvitova as a +130 dog in a 3rd set tiebreaker. Venus Williams, who has already advanced to 2 Grand Slam finals already this season in the Serena Williams pregnancy era, if you will. Venus on the cusp of a 3rd Grand Slam final. She advances to the semis, so it will be Sloane Stephens against Venus Williams in a must-see semi coming up here in the next couple days. Now, today, the remaining quarterfinal brackets are in store at Flushing Meadows, Arthur Ashe Stadium. On the men's side, it is the power bracket. Nadal and Federer. Rafael Nadal, that is, the number 1 seed from Spain. He is a -1,200 favorite against Andrei Rublev, who's +750 coming back. Good luck, Mr. Rublev. And then the number 3 seed, the greatest of all time, as we call him, Roger Federer, -500 favorite against the number 24 seed, Juan Martín del Potro, who won an unbelievable match while sick. An incredible comeback the other day against Dominic Thiem, a 5-set match in which he was down 2-0. Del Potro +400 coming back against Federer in this one. Federer a little more rested now that he's had a little easier matches down the road here than he did early on. Del Potro obviously coming off the marathon match.
I was going to say Federer had 5 setters in the first and second round,
Yes.
and that kind of was crushing him. But now he's rested, and Del Potro's sick. I don't know.
Yeah.
Minus 500 looks like a good number to get in.
Yeah, minus 500. I like it. Del Potro always a threat, though, no matter what. And the final 2 quarterfinals on the women's side. So we have Venus and Sloane Stephens on the one side as the Americans on the ladies' side try to get 4 players in. Wouldn't that be something? And Coco Vandeweghe will be the first to try at it this afternoon. The number 20 seed, Coco Vandeweghe, the niece of former NBA star Kiki Vandeweghe. She's a plus 155 proposition against the number 1 seed. She will have her work cut out for her, Will Vandeweghe. Karolina Pliskova, who is minus 175 in that match. And then tonight, my pick, my pre-tournament pick, if you've been listening to a numbers game, you know I had Madison Keys at 12-1 to win it all. Well, Madison Keys, coming off probably the best match of her career. Great third set comeback in her previous match. She attempts now to get to the semis against Kaya Kanepi, and Madison Keys a minus 470, big favorite in that match tonight. Madison Keys playing the best tennis of her career. I'm still very bullish on that pick, but we'll see if Coco Vandeweghe can get by Pliskova as well. Should be fun at Flushing Meadows. Betting opportunities abound. I'd ride Madison Keys. Certainly in this one. That's a lot to lay, but I'll still lay it on that. And I agree with you, Jorge. I would lay the minus 500 on Federer as well. Should be fun all day long. Tennis. Next, Jay Kornegay from the Westgate Superbook. We're going to talk about how he has handled the Ezekiel Elliott matter in all markets. Week 1, division futures, conference, and Super Bowl futures with the Cowboys, and what his biggest decision is for the weekend in both college football and the National Football League. Jay Kornegay next on A Numbers Game at VSiN.
This is A Numbers Game with Gil Alexander on Sirius XM 204. It's a numbers game, live from Las Vegas, Nevada, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Now, live from the VSiN studios, it's your host, Gil Alexander.
We had so much fun a few weeks back during Super Contest weekend at the Westgate, broadcasting all our shows live. The buzz was in the air for both Super Contest Classic and Super Contest Gold. And one of the things that we're going to do now throughout the year, each and every week, there's a meter to this. Each and every Tuesday, VSiN is going to be the first place in conjunction with the Westgate to announce the updated Super Contest standings for both contests. Saturdays, we will be the first place at VSiN here, along with the Westgate, to announce what the consensus picks are for that coming week. And Wednesdays, today, is the day that at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, VSiN will be the spot where you will hear the lines, the static lines that folks in the contest will pick into with Brent Musburger and my guys in the desert live from the Westgate. And to help us along with all of this, because today is an exciting day with the release of those Week 1 lines, the czar, the emperor of the Westgate Superbook, the Las Vegas Westgate Superbook, of course, it is our friend Jay Kornegay. Hello, Jay. How are you, sir?
Quite the intro there, Gil. Good morning to you.
That's not on your business card, Czar, Emperor? I thought that was your title.
I'll check again, but I'm pretty sure it's not on there.
Okay. VP, for goodness sake. Vice President of Race and Sports over at the Westgate Superbook. So, Jay, obviously a lot happening in the National Football League. Let's talk about the Dolphins and the Buccaneers being postponed to Week 11. So that simply just isn't part of the contest. It's that simple, right, this week?
That's correct. That game will not be on the Super Contest line board, obviously. We were kind of going through some options there of what we could do with it. In the rules, it states that the game just must be played by the Tuesday of that week to be considered action for the Super Contest. If it's not, and it's not played that week, it would go down as a loss of anyone that selected that game. So we were actually, trying to get the word out, be careful if you're, selecting that game, because at that time we didn't know exactly what they were going to do with it. Well, it's pretty black and white now, as it's been postponed to Week 11. So it just won't be on the card this week. And it will be on the card Week 11, and we're moving forward.
Yeah, dodged a bullet, if you will, with that one. A potential mine for Super Contest players. Talking to the Vice President of the Westgate Superbook, Jay Kornegay. So, Jay, we still have a few days here before the season. Well, the season begins, of course, tomorrow night with a Thursday game. Do folks still have a chance to enter beyond tomorrow night's game up to the weekend? How is that working?
Yeah, we're accepting entries for the Super Contest through September 9th until 11 a.m. Now, I wouldn't wait till the last minute, because that is the deadline for all the weekly selections, 11 a.m. each Saturday. So, yes, we are accepting all day, even after the game, or even during the game that's being played on Thursday night, all day Friday and Saturday morning. But definitely would try to get in there Friday at the latest, because Saturday gets a little hectic as we got a full slate of college football games. We're still accepting them, but like I said, every Saturday is the deadline for weekly selections at 11 a.m., and that's the last date that we will be accepting Super Contest entries.
Yes, please don't get shut out. If you are wanting to enter the Super Contest, please, for God's sakes, don't get literally shut out the window on Saturday morning after having a whole summer to prepare for this. So what's the count then, Jay? The golden question, of course, no pun intended, for both Super Contest Classic, the $1,500 entry, which you pay out to the top 50 places, and for Super Contest Gold, which is the $5,000 entry, winner take all. What's the current entrant number, sir?
Going into the business day today, Wednesday, we're looking at Wednesday. We still have a few more days left. September 6th, we are entering today with 2,374 entries for the Super Contest. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. I believe, just based on history, we're looking at probably between 2,500 and 2,600 entries at the final count. Those are our estimates now. So we're looking at a winner receiving just over $1.2 million. It certainly has become a life changer. I mean, this, whoever wins this will be a millionaire. So it's certainly a record-setting year and just smashed last year's record of 1854. So still accepting entries, like I said, through Saturday at 11 a.m. And we're definitely looking at about 2,500 to 2,600 there for the Super Contest Classic, as you came up with.
Thank you.
Now, on the new inaugural Super Contest Gold, which is a $5,000 entry fee, which has the same exact format as the Super Contest, but it's just a winner-take-all $5,000 entry. And we're looking at 69 entries as we speak going into today. So that's a big chunk of change as well. It's a little bit more than, it's quite a bit more than I anticipated. I thought we would be somewhere right around 40, 45. But it wouldn't surprise me if we get close to 80 entries in the Super Contest Gold Contest.
And you were expecting around 50, you said? 50 around there, 45, 50, you said? That's amazing.
Yeah,
69.
There was a wide range. Yeah, there was a wide range of guesses out there, anywhere from, I heard people, you won't get 10.
Yeah.
And, I heard, 100. So most of us, I think, came out with the consensus of right around 45 or 50. And so we certainly surpassed that.
Just anecdotally, Jay, I know I asked you this at the Westgate itself when we did the shows there. By the way, thank you for having us there. We had such a ball over there. But just anecdotally, when you think about the 69 entrants, and I know it might be even less people if someone put in more than one. I'm not sure if they did or not. But anecdotally, are they rich bettors? Are they sharp bettors? How would you characterize them, or can you at all?
Well, first of all, the Super Contest Gold, you're limited to one entry.
Yes.
The Super Contest Classic, right, you can have two entries. Mm-hmm. So, we found, going into this, we thought it was going to be more of a sophisticated kind of demographic, but it's a mixture. We have guys that, wouldn't be categorized as, sharps, that just are football fans and football junkies that have gotten into it. So I think it's a good mixture of sophisticated players and just casual football fans.
So great. It's going to be so exciting. Again, all this is, for those who are unfamiliar with the largest handicapping contest in Vegas, 5 picks against the spread each and every week. A grand total of 85 picks for the entire season, times 17 weeks in the NFL for both contests. And there are mini contests with the Super Contest Classic as well, so there are other chances to win money, but $1.2 million, at least at this point, perhaps, expected for the winner, perhaps even more. Jay, I leave you with this, talking to Jay Kornegay, the Vice President at Westgate at Superbook. I know you don't have specific lines in front of you, but if I were to ask you what you expect to be the biggest decisions of your weekend, both NFL and college, might you have a guess on that?
Certainly looking at that Giants-Dallas game on Sunday night. I'm kind of eyeballing it right now, actually, as we speak. I know there's going to be a lot of parlays tied up to that game and most likely to the Cowboys. So hopefully we, as a book operator, you kind of get a mixture of results going into that game. But I'm pretty sure that will be one of the biggest decisions that the books will have, as it normally is, but especially the first weekend and especially with the Giants and Cowboys involved. The other game I'm kind of eyeballing right now is that Seattle-Green Bay game. I think that even though it's a pretty even matchup and it's a 3-point spread, I can guarantee you that by the time we get the kickoff there, which is a later kickoff, 1:25 Pacific time on Sunday afternoon, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of parlays attached to those Packers, even though they're playing the Seahawks. So those are looking like the two biggest decisions. And of course, we kick off tomorrow. That's going to be a big one as well with the Chiefs and Patriots. I'd like to see going into this year some, visiting teams on Thursday night to cover the spread, because they haven't done well.
Yeah.
It just seems every last year it just was ridiculous. It just felt like every Thursday home team, was covering the spread and a lot of the games going over. So it'd be nice to see some of these dogs come through on Thursday nights.
Yeah, the quality in general of those Thursday night games. Now, week one is a different matter because they haven't played and there's not a scheduling issue in week one. But as the season rolled on, just a terrible product. And yes, from a betting standpoint, the underdogs just could not get it done on Thursdays, and it makes sense. They're the ones traveling on a short week. And then college is usually the marquee matchup, maybe Oklahoma and Ohio State. We're guessing something like that this weekend for your biggest.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a big one there, and you're looking at that as far as one of the more popular games. I still think Clemson Auburn is going to bring in some good dough. Notre Dame, Georgia will probably have a lot of action as well. So, I mean, what we saw last weekend for the college ranks, I mean, it really kicked off to a great start. Some exciting games, a lot of action. The atmosphere was just electric in all the books in Las Vegas, and certainly looking forward to a full slate this weekend.
Jay, I lied to you because I have one more question that just leapt into my mind right now. When you're following the Super Contest standings, and I know you are to some degree, do you ever, and I know you can't say this out loud, but do you ever sort of inside, if you know who's who, have a rooting interest in this where you're like, man, this would be great if this guy or if this girl did very well. Like, this would be a great story. Do you ever involve yourself to that degree?
No, I don't. I mean, I follow on the A-listers. I really don't know too much about them. A lot of people don't even want to talk to me. So I've learned over the years, because people become, superstitious. It's like, hey, don't bother me. Don't ask me. Some are really openly and say, oh, yeah, you talk to me. And, they do some interviews and are media friendly. Others are, would rather just not be disturbed and remain anonymous. And so I don't really look into it. And it's not like on the application it says what they do for a living or anything like that. So I really don't know anything about them except for, where they live, where they come from, and their alias. So I try to stay out. Now, if they do contact me, I might ask some questions, but I try to leave them be and enjoy their ride.
All right. Well, we'll always talk to you here at VSiN, Jay. I promise you that. 3 p.m. today, My Guys in the Desert with Ron Flatter and Vinny Maliulo, perhaps Amal Shah, the whole cast of characters, and Brent Musburger live at the Westgate with Jay Kornegay to release the first lines in which folks are betting in the Super Contest. Jay, good luck with everything. Enjoy the season, my friend.
It's a pleasure, Gil. Enjoy the weekend.
You too. Jay Kornegay, Vice President, Westgate Superbook. Always a pleasure to have him on the show. And again, so much fun we had over there at the Westgate for Super Contest weekend, and happy to be a part of the contest here at VSiN. Again, not only for the Super Contest weekend, but throughout the week in terms of giving you the consensus lines on Saturdays, but even before that on Tuesdays, the standings, the updated standings, and Wednesdays, like today, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, the release of the lines. Gil Alexander, oh yes, baseball picks. 8 units up last week, or 8.79 units up last week on a 13-4. And all we've given back in the first 2 days is 0.79 units exactly. So we've just kind of been spinning our wheels here the first 2 days. I have 3, count them 3, MLB picks on the way on a numbers game at VSiN. Stay tuned.
This is a numbers game with Gil Alexander on Sirius XM 204. It's a numbers game, live from Las Vegas, Nevada, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Now, live from the VSiN studios, it's your host, Gil Alexander.
NFL kicks off tomorrow night. Cannot wait. Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots. Patriots up to 9-point favorites in that ball game against the Chiefs at home. The Thursday night opener in the National Football League. 9 consensus, 48 the total. Probably 48.5 now consensus. That total keeps on moving up. And because it's the NFL season and because it's college football, we are responding here at VSiN with more programming for you. It's how we roll, as I said, kicking off each and every weekday at 7 a.m. Eastern with Follow the Money, 3 hours with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard, followed by me. Hey, that's me, Gil Alexander, with a numbers game. That's at 7 Pacific for West Coast Morning Drive, 10 Eastern. And then if you can't get up early enough for Mitch and Paulie, first of all, shame on you. Let's get that out of the way. But secondly, you can catch Follow the Money at 9 a.m. Pacific time or lunchtime on the East Coast. We forgive you. And you can catch it then. Our new show, The Edge, gets started at 3 Eastern with Matt Humans and Jonathan Von Tobel. And then at the usual time, 6 Eastern, my guys in the desert with the legend himself, Brent Musburger, and Ron Flatter, and the revolving cast of odds makers and professional bettors. We got you covered. Las Vegas is only 24/7 sportsbook here at the South Point Hotel Casino. That's where we broadcast from, bright and early, weekdays, 7 Eastern live, right here on VSiN, Sirius XM Channel 204, and online at vsin.com. A couple odds and ends before we get to the baseball pick. The Seattle Seahawks have decided to unveil an alternate forward-facing logo. Have you seen this? This is very cool. The team unveiled the logo yesterday evening in a Facebook post, along with a caption that read, "For everyone who ever wondered what it would be like to stand face to beak with a Seahawk." And so the alternate logo, which will flash up here at vsin.com, that is very cool, don't you think?
Beak.
Love it. Thank you, Jorge. Beak, he says. That's why we pay Jorge the big bucks, ladies and gentlemen, because he makes comments like that. Seahawks, that is very cool. I like that artwork. So I don't know what context the Seahawks will use that in, but, that's kind of cool if you're watching at vsin.com. The other thing, before we get to the baseball picks, Dancing with the Stars, which is a bettable event offshore, though not here in Las Vegas or in the state of Nevada. Dancing with the Stars has announced their lineup, and T.O. is on. Terrell Owens has decided to take his shot at winning Dancing with the Stars next year, or next season, I should say. T.O. is going to dance with Cheryl Burke. I am not a DWTS fan, by the way, but it is noteworthy that T.O. Athletes win this quite often. And so T.O. may very well be the betting favorite in this one. T.O. is going to be there. Derek Fisher, former NBA player, is going to be there as well, former NBA player and NBA coach. I think sports fans will tune in for Derek Fisher just to see if Matt Barnes will bum rush the dancing stage during one of his routines. That would be spectacular if that happened. No, maybe not. And then there's other dignitaries in quotes. Debbie Gibson, former 80s teen heartthrob. She's in this as well. Anybody? Debbie Gibson's biggest hit ever? No one? Anyone? Foolish Beat, perhaps? No? I don't know. Anyway, Dancing with the Stars. I'm gonna say T.O. is going to be the chalk in that one. Yes?
I've got an underdog for you.
Okay.
Paralympian swimmer Victoria Arlen. She's with Val Chemkovsky, a Paralympian. She's a reporter on ESPN as well. She's got a great story, and I think she's going to really connect with America. I think she's going to be the underdog athlete to watch during the competition.
We like a good story. I hear your reasoning there. I like it. So all of that taking place on ABC. Terrell made his announcement, Terrell Owens, that is, on Good Morning America this morning. So for those interested in offshore entertainment props like that one, there you go. We'll check out what the lines are of that moving forward. All right, baseball picks. 13-4 last week in our new morning slot. 13-4 for plus 8.79 units. It was quite a week where we had 5 winning days, 5 consecutive winning days. And then we came out Monday. We went 1-2, but we lost less than a unit because we hit on a dog in that one as well. So, the loss was minimal. Yesterday, we went 1-1, 2 dogs, so we get a slight tick upward. So for these 2 days, we're still down, but we're only down less than a unit compared to the 8.79 we won in week 1. We're down 0.79 exactly this week so far. So we're up 8 units since the new time slot has kicked in, and I have 3 picks in Major League Baseball today. Would you like to hear him, Jorge? Jorge is nodding yes. Interactive radio, ladies and gentlemen, here at Sirius XM Channel 204. Pick number 1, New York Yankees at the Baltimore Orioles. I am on the Orioles in this matchup. The Orioles are minus 115 favorites here at the South Point Hotel Casino. Consensus on the Orioles right now, although minus 115 here at the South Point Hotel Casino, consensus is exactly minus 115 on the button. So South Point jibes with that. I'm on the Orioles. Value here on Kevin Gausman against Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray, who is not getting a lot of run support for the Yankees. And by the way, the Yankees, look at those records right there on the screen at VSiN.com. Yankees just 3.5 games ahead of the Orioles in that division in the AL East. Of course, the Yankees clinging on right now to the number 1 wild card position in the American League. But the Twinkies and the Angels knocking at the door. I like Kevin Gausman here. We talked with Josh Cole from Roto Grinders about Gausman a couple weeks back. Kevin Gausman's K rate, month to month: April, 13.6%, May, 16.2%, June, 20.8%, July, 31.0%, August, 22.1%. He had to dip from 30%. He wasn't going to sustain that. But you get the idea. 18.4% before the break, 26.1% after the break. This is the Kevin Gausman that the Orioles have always hoped that they would get. I'm taking the Orioles here at minus 115, hosting the New York Yankees. I think there's a starting pitching advantage, believe it or not, Gausman versus Gray in this one, and I think the O's have the offensive advantage as well. Texas is at Atlanta, and the Braves, I know what you're saying. Really, Gil? Are you going to bet on the Braves? You darn right I am. The Braves are plus 110 dogs in this game, and I believe they ought to be favorites. So the wrong team is favored. I'm all over the Braves. Julio Teheran against Cole Hamels. Cole Hamels just having a down year any way you slice it. Worst year of his career in terms of his K rate by far at 15.3%. Worst year of his career in swinging strike rate by far at just 8.8%. 243 BABIP has really helped him out, as a matter of fact. But his soft contact is at 14%. His hard contact's at 35.7%. That's an accident waiting to happen. By the way, his walk rate, 8.3%. That's the worst rate of his career since his rookie year back in 2006. So Hamels here at the South Point Hotel Casino, the Rangers are minus 108 and the Braves are minus 102. But the Braves consensus right at this very moment is plus 110. So those aren't updated on the screen here at the South Point. So the Braves at plus 110 as you look across the board. We're all about the Braves and Julio Teheran, who earlier in the season I was mentioning how Splits McSplitsville back in Turner Field, he was so much better at home than he was on the road, and somehow that reversed when they got to the bandbox that is SunTrust. Not somehow, it makes sense, the nature of that ballpark. But he's gotten it together at home this year, has Julio Teheran. Now he's 360 weighted on base against away, but at SunTrust, he's at 302, very serviceable weighted on base against at his home ballpark. Give me the Braves at plus 110, pick number 2, and pick number 3. And by the way, I think the Braves not only have the starting pitching advantage, I think they have the relief pitching and offensive advantage as well. And then this is a game that my buddies over at Base Winner just absolutely love. They have the Padres lined at minus 163. I don't have it quite that high, but the Padres on the line today are plus 100 consensus, and I'm all about the Padres at that price. It's Jack Flaherty against Dinelson Lamet. Lamet for the Padres. Flaherty, 4.06 xFIP in AAA. Dinelson Lamet with a 29.5% K rate and a 12.3% swinging strike rate. Massive starting pitching advantage for the Padres in this one. No way they should be the dog. So those are your 3 picks. The Orioles, minus 115, hosting the Yankees. The Braves, plus 110, hosting the Rangers in a game they should be favorites in. And the Padres at even plus 100 against the Cardinals. Give me those 3. Follow the money next with Mitch and Paulie here at VSiN. Enjoy.
This is a numbers game with Gil Alexander on Sirius XM 204.